Hey, so I finally beat regular Minecraft. What's next? One block. I've never tried it, so this should be interesting. We're gonna see what we can accomplish in 100 Minecraft days starting on this single block. There's 10 phases, and then we fight the Ender Dragon. Day 1, I started off on a grass block, and this is just the intro phase. So I started mining and I got my first little bit of wood, and then a chest spawned. Inside the chest was an oak sapling and some seeds. And check this out, I was hovering for a split second. Anyway, I started expanding the platform with the few dirt blocks I had already gathered. I put together a crafting table and made myself some sticks. With that, I made a wooden pickaxe and a wooden axe. There wasn't a lot of space to work with, so I got rid of the table and got back to work mining. Unfortunately, that still wasn't enough space because this happened. Oh no! Oh no. But hey, check it out. I got another oak sapling and an egg. We were gonna need a lot more wood to expand this platform, so I used up a few more dirt blocks and planted my first tree. I had a pretty decent amount of wood planks, so I figured I might as well make a wooden shovel to speed things up a bit. Based on this tip here, I assumed the next block would be gravel, so I stepped back to get rid of it. It wasn't though. It was just wood. This is where I got very confused. The next tip was saying I needed to place a block under the infinite block. How? I had no idea how I was supposed to make that happen. I tried making some wood stairs thinking that would work. Yeah, that was a waste of time and resources because it still wasn't possible.
Okay, I don't know what I'm doing.
So I broke the next block and what do you know? A chest with a water bucket, of course. I made my way down the waterfall and I placed a dirt block right below the infinite block. We were now in business. I got a few blocks of gravel and then this spawned. It was a chest covered in hearts, and inside that chest was another sapling, more wood, and a torch. And guess what? We had our first fully grown tree. I got to work chopping it down, and yeah, that was pretty much the intro phase. It's pretty short, nice and easy. We made it to the first real phase, the plains. Since I still had some dirt blocks left over, I went ahead and expanded the platform a bit. The more trees we can get going, the faster we can expand. I was getting a lot more dirt, wood, and also a little bit of watermelon. I was really worried about the food situation since, you know, the pig decided to jump off the side. But then this guy decided to join us.
Yes! We got another pig.
There was no chance I was letting this one fall off too, so I crafted some fencing and started building him a nice little pen. It was pretty small, but it was just him, so he'll be fine. I didn't realize it, but I had built his pen right on top of the infinite block. Not a big deal, I could still mine, but yeah, I wanted to move him. With all of this mining, I was starting to rack up some dirt blocks. I went ahead and planted 2 more trees, then continued expanding the platform. Look at all these trees we've got growing. The pig looked a little confused when I broke the fence, but he had nothing to worry about because we were building him a nice new home over next to the edge, out of the way. As soon as I got back to mining, a cow spawned. Of course. This was starting to become a trend. You could call it growing pains. I was constantly getting more of these guys. So I had to break the fence down, build out a little bit more, and force them into their new home. I also got some more watermelon and pumpkin. When these chickens arrived, they willfully walked right in. No hesitation. Well, kind of.
Oh, get back in there. Hey. Oh. Okay. Oh, don't fall, please.
Once they were settled in, I fed them some seeds so we could get some baby chickens going. Check it out, more bacon.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't sure if I could breed these guys just yet, but I tried anyway with watermelon. Turns out they're not big fans of the stuff. I was just gonna leave this guy outside, but then he started doing some weird stuff. He kept standing where I needed to mine, and then he just tried to jump right off into the void.
Oh, no.
So I had no choice but to put him away. He wasn't having it though. The man did not want to be locked up. I can't blame him, but I needed him to stay alive. Eventually, I got him inside and what do you know?
Ah, another one.
It was now day 2, and I started it off expanding the platform even further. I had about 30 blocks of dirt to use up, and I wanted to get a head start on the farming situation, so I used a hoe to plant some seeds. Using the water bucket, I was able to place some blocks underneath the platform. That way I could make a hole and put a water source in place. I feel like I got really lucky here because the tree spawned, and I was convinced it was going to push me through the map. I got rid of the tree, and look at this guy. He looked like he was about to jump off again. Because he didn't want to join his friend, my next plan was to just build around him, and it actually worked. Finally, all animals were safe and sound. With all the wood I've gathered, I made myself a new shovel and got back to work mining. We now had a new friend for our cow, but he was a little crazy too.
Oh, I'm sorry. No! No, 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 no.
He was really starting to worry me, so I got him locked up as soon as possible. And hey, look, another friend for our sheep. From one of the chests, I got a birch sapling, so I went ahead and got some more trees planted. Oh, and turns out, none of these guys like watermelon. I even tried pumpkin, but they didn't really like that either. I'm still not even really sure what this stuff is even for. I guess it's only good for making pie? I don't know, but I can't make any right now. Anyway, I cut down some more trees, and we had 2 more chickens join the crew. This is where it finally clicked. I had an idea, one that I wish I had thought of sooner. Instead of constantly having to build a new pen, why not just fence the entire platform? So that's what I did, and now these guys can't go anywhere. In the last chest, I got some more saplings, a grass block, and some apples. And just like that, phase 1 was complete. Now it was time for phase 2, the underground. This is where we should start seeing some coal and iron. I started things off just mining some cobblestone, which I then used to craft a stone pickaxe, and it didn't take long at all before I started getting some coal. With it, I made a few torches and placed them down to keep the bad mobs from spawning. It was nighttime, and we were getting to the point where this could start happening. I then started working on expanding the platform again with the dirt I had, which wasn't very much. And look at this, we got our first piece of iron. By this point, my inventory was pretty full, so I decided to place down some chests where I could keep storing items I didn't need. Next, I made myself a furnace and threw the iron inside of it to start smelting down. After that, a new guy showed up, and I accidentally smacked him. Honestly, I've never seen one of these things in regular Minecraft, so I wasn't sure at the time what made them different from just regular cows. Turns out, they are actually an infinite source of food if you have some bowls. And this was awesome, because I was pretty worried about how I was going to handle the food situation. Only problem was, the dude just kept getting in my way, and then there were 2.
Oh, there's 2 of them now.
In the next chest, I got some leather, a spruce sapling, and some red mushrooms. And this next part, I definitely wasn't prepared for.
Oh! Oh! Where are you supposed to be?
Yeah, that's a zombie. I guess I forgot to disable the resource pack that I used for my last video, so he looked a little off. The guy didn't have a face. But hey, first mob kill. So I turned that off, and the next zombies looked normal. They were kind of beating me up too. I still didn't have a sword, so I just had to fight them with my wooden axe, and they almost got me.
Oh. No. Oh my gosh.
Luckily, I got away in time and pillared myself up where they couldn't reach me. So I got myself healed up and made a stone sword, which I used to take them out. By this point, it was already day 3 and my iron had finished smelting. Look what spawned next. These little rabbits. I don't think there was much I could do with these guys, but it was just cool to have them around. Although, I'm not sure they wanted to be here because this guy looked like he was about to jump off. I don't know why all these animals want to leave this place. It's so spacious. I didn't trust him, so I did my best to just try and build around him so he wouldn't accidentally step too far. While I was at it, I went ahead and expanded the platform some more since I had so many cobblestone blocks built up. And check it out, even more rabbits. This next chest looked a little bit different. It was glowing green, but it didn't really have anything crazy in it. I think it was more of a warning of what was coming next, but I didn't realize that at the time.
Oh my... What the heck was that? Oh, that is not good.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting to get creepers during this playthrough. Since it destroyed most of the inner fence already, I decided to just let the rest of the animals out. Doing that made the place a bit more crowded though, so I worked on expanding the platform a bit more and moved the fence to the outer edge. And these rabbits, they weren't as nice as I thought they'd be. They just sat there in the way while I was trying to finish the fence. I worked on the other side in the meantime, and when I made my way back over there, so did this guy. He jumped right where I was about to place down the fence. He was taunting me.
Yo, bunny, get out of the way. Don't want to have to do it. Thank you.
When I finally finished the fence, things were looking pretty good. I went ahead and threw down these eggs because I didn't really see a point in holding on to them. We got a couple more chickens from it. And guess what? Add another mob to the list. Spiders. We're gonna have to worry about them too. It did drop some strain though, which will probably come in handy at some point. I was starting to accumulate a lot of saplings, so I went ahead and planted a bunch of them. We also had our first piece of wheat fully grown. 2 of them actually. So I planted some more and fed the rest of the seeds to the chickens. The wheat I gave to the regular cows, which, thinking back, I probably should have bred the mushroom cows. Like I said, I didn't know how useful they were going to be. And check out this chicken. Talk about living life on the edge. I don't know how he was doing this, but it's kind of impressive.
Oh no! No!
No,
Come on, get in here.
no, don't do it.
Get in here.
No, no, don't do
Don't
it.
do it! Please! Get in here!
I don't want to do this no more.
Dude, come on, please. Don't have anything to give him. Don't. You've got so much ahead of you. Please.
Huh?
Alright, well, you know what? I was just about to block him back out there.
I really messed up putting the fence right next to the chest. All these animals saw it as an opportunity to get out of here. Fortunately, we didn't have any incidents. And after that, I had a few more zombies to take out. The next day, I started cutting down some trees, and when I got back to mining, there was another surprise waiting for us.
No!
Yep, another creeper. Somehow he didn't blow up, so I had to lure him around and take hits where I could. And for some reason, I backed myself up in the corner under this tree, which was a terrible idea. I managed to take him out without a scratch, but I was kind of worried I wasn't going to be this lucky next time. I decided to put down another chest to store my building blocks in. That way we could treat the other one as kind of the junk chest. And I had a pretty good amount of wood stocked up here. I threw 2 more iron in the furnace and waited for that to smelt down. With the iron bars, we had options. I ultimately decided to craft some shears first, because with these, I can trim up these guys for their wool, which I'll be able to use to make myself a bed. And man, they look really weird without their wool. I got back to work mining, and you can tell how nervous I was. I was literally standing on a pillar several blocks away. These chickens were even wondering what the heck I was doing. But just as I thought, another creeper spawned in. This one didn't blow up either, and I managed to take it out without any destruction or damage. It kind of debunked my pillar strategy though, so I got rid of that. I started mining again, and this baby chicken was in the wrong place at the wrong time, let's just say.
Oh, we're suffocating the chicken. Where did he go?
Poor guy. Anyway, I ended up getting 2 more wool, which I immediately used to make a bed. I could finally sleep. I spent the next few minutes just chopping trees because I had big plans for the night. After making some more torches, I went outside the border and started building out the platform. And yeah, I know what you're probably thinking. Why isn't he using slabs? You know, that's a great question. I don't know, but I should have been. I built a bridge out this direction so I could build this mob shack thing. I don't really remember why I wanted to build this. I guess just to have a place to spawn mobs. Maybe it was to try and spawn an Enderman or something, which by the looks of it, I don't think they would have spawned in here. Anyway, I noticed more wheat was ready, so I picked that, and yeah, I expanded a bit more on the other side. While I was fighting these zombies, I managed to take out one of my pigs. I was really worried because I thought I wouldn't be able to breed them anymore. Luckily, there were still 2 of them left. And hey, check it out. My mob shack was working. It spawned a spider. The inside of the place was empty though, except for these bats, which I got rid of. I went back to home base and bred 2 more of the regular cows. The next morning, I got something from killing this zombie that was about to change the farming game forever. It was a carrot.
Oh, we got carrots.
With this, I could start breeding the pigs.
And we got a helmet.
I decided to start planting my trees outside the fence on top of these dirt blocks. Since I kept having to fight the mobs near the infinity block, I didn't want any obstacles in the way. I had some more iron waiting for me in the furnace, and with it, I made myself an iron pickaxe. I got another chest and almost took out another chicken. This time, the guy would have fallen to his death. They probably should stay far away from me. Check out these spiders. They didn't seem interested in me at all. I don't think I've ever seen this happen, but it's like they were friendly spiders. That didn't stop me from getting rid of them though. I used another piece of iron to make a shield, and that's when I heard a chicken taking damage in the background.
Oh.
Not really sure what happened, but yeah, he didn't make it. When I got to looking around, that's when I noticed I was also missing a sheep. No idea what happened there either, but hey, more iron and some baked chicken. I was still getting more creepers, so I figured it was probably time to upgrade my sword. I also made some renovations to the fence. I put down some carpet so I could easily get out of here in case there's a mob chasing me. I had made it to the final chest of this phase, and it had a pretty good amount of coal and an empty map. I don't think I ever touched that again, but hey, that is phase 2 complete. Phase 3, Icy Tundra. I felt pretty prepared for this one. If you've seen my last video, you know I'm doing a Frozen Wasteland series where I'm basically playing through a blizzard. But yeah, this one was giving me tons of snow and a decent amount of iron. It also gave me something I did not expect at all, a wolf, and I accidentally hit the guy.
Uh-oh.
And he was not very happy with me. He was doing everything he could to try and get to me. I mean, literally, it was trying to find a way out. When it came back over to me, I went to strike it and I accidentally took out the rabbit. I don't know what happened next, but the wolf decided it wanted a little piece of that too.
No, he's killing everything. You little...
And just like that, we were rabbitless. I literally left them to die. But at least we got some rabbit hide, whatever that's for. I went to check on my mob shack again, and there was a spider, but still nothing inside the shack, just more bats. So I figured it was probably time to expand this a little bit, and I made it even bigger. When I got back to mining, we had a new mob to add to the list. I was trying to get outside the fence because I was worried it was going to miss me and take out my animals. It backed away initially, but I was able to finish the job, and this introduced another important piece to farming: bones. I could now make bone meal, but check it out. It took an arrow right to the head. Anyway, I got healed back up and I noticed several mobs on top of our shack, including a skeleton, which meant I could get more bones. When I went to take it out, I knocked it right off the side of the map. So no bones for me. The next day, I cut down some more oak trees. I also bred the mushroom cows for the first time. And then I started expanding the tree area. We now had a pretty good amount of oak and spruce growing. We had also gotten rid of the last remaining tree inside the fence. I didn't want to risk the animals getting hit by another mob, so I worked on building a new pen for them. I had quite a few iron bars, but I wasn't too excited about using them all on a chest plate. If I did, I would only have one left, and having never played one block before, I didn't know how much iron I would end up with. So instead, I made myself iron legs. It's not much, but it'll do for now. 2 more strays spawned in, and it seemed like they were gonna fight each other. But then, one of them shot a mushroom cow, and I didn't want him to die, so I got involved. That's when I realized I really needed to do something about the animals. So I grabbed some of their favorite snacks and started luring them into the newly built pen. Most of them walked right in, except for this pig. The place was looking a lot better. With the bones I got from the strays, I made more bone meal and finished up growing some of the wheat. I also realized I never actually planted the carrot, so I got that put in the dirt and harvested the rest of the crops. This gave me quite a few wheat seeds, so I planted more and fed the rest to the chickens. Most of the cows got to eat too. I did a little tree run and killed some zombies that spawned over at the mob shack. I was really starting to rack up a good amount of XP. Since I had some flint, feathers, and string, I decided to make a bow and some arrows. This made it a lot easier and safer to take out the mobs at the shack. And there were a lot of them over there. Sadly, the skeleton walked right off the map. That's alright though, because inside the shack, there was a creeper and something else hiding around the corner. It was another skeleton. I spent a little time expanding the bridge so I could minimize the risk of things falling. Back at the trees, there were tons of saplings waiting to be picked up. And check it out, another skeleton and zombie. They got into a little bit of a tussle.
Get him. Oh yeah. Oh.
Eventually, I got more bone meal, which I used on the carrots. I now had extra carrots, which meant I could start breeding the pigs.
Oh no, we lost another pig. How are we losing? Oh, wait. No, he's right there.
The next day, I made some more carpet and put it on the animal pen. Well, I tried to. I used up the bone meal and planted even more carrots. When I got back to mining, something absolutely terrible happened. 2 snow foxes spawned in, and I didn't really think anything of it until they hopped right over the fence and started attacking my chickens. And they definitely got a couple of them.
No. No.
It's a good thing I've been breeding them as much as possible. So I did what had to be done and I took them out. I hated to do it, but I also needed chickens. And these guys, they seemed a little stressed. I had a new plan and it was to build a chicken coop made entirely out of fencing. I went 3 blocks high and added a gate to the front. I broke a piece of fence and with some seeds, I was able to move them into their new home pretty easily. But these baby cows thought they were invited.
Sorry, buddy. You're not a chicken. Oh, they're all coming in. You're not a chicken. No.
Once I got everyone situated, I went to step out of the pen and this little guy followed me. I don't know what happened to him, but he just disappeared. Went over to check on the mob shack and yeah.
Oh.
Oops. At least we got some bones from it. Anyway, I got the shack put back together real quick, and with the bone meal, I got more carrots and wheat harvested, which I immediately fed to the animals. I wasn't too convinced this chicken coop was actually going to keep the foxes out. So I sent a message in my Discord server, and shout out to Nil, because Nil told me they'll most likely jump over that, and I should probably add a roof. So that's what I did. I made a roof using oak slabs. I was finally conserving wood and putting these things to use. But yeah, huge thanks to Nil. If you aren't in the Discord server, definitely go check it out. The chicken coop was finished and it was looking good. It wasn't long until we actually got to put it to the test. Another fox spawned, and I wasn't aware that they can steal your blocks. Did these guys have any use? It seems like their purpose is just to be annoying. Either way, I wanted to try and trap him, so I quickly built another coop. And this fox, he was hiding from me. He kept running every time I got close. And check this out, he stole one of my apples. I tried feeding him some rabbit, but he wasn't interested. And then he just ran off and ate my apple while I watched. I tried luring him with some watermelon, but he wasn't buying it. I think the poor guy was terrified of me because he kept running anytime I made a move or even looked at him. So I gave up on that for now and used the opportunity to feed the chickens. When I got back to mining, I thought I heard something. And I did. It was an Enderman. I wanted to start getting Ender Pearls as soon as possible. So I built some protection and looked it right in between the eyes. My plan worked perfectly and it came running right over. But I had to be careful because it almost fell off. I had to keep staring him down to get his attention again. And guess what? I put all that effort in for no Ender Pearls. Anyway, another fox spawned in, and since it was already inside the fence, I decided to try my watermelon strat again. And it kind of looked interested in it, and then it wasn't. Surprisingly, this phase was giving me a good amount of iron. And check out this chest. We got ourselves our first piece of gold and more bone meal. Just when I thought I was done with the fox, it started walking right towards the coop. And we were so close to trapping it, but then he ran off again. Yep, no chance we're pulling this off. But hey, look at what spawned next. A polar bear. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was really any use for it here.
Now what do I do with you?
I started the next day at the mob shack, and I thought I heard something unusual inside of it. Turns out it was a zombie villager. I was just about to put down a boat, but then a creeper showed up. It didn't blow up, but check it out. When I came back, it was sitting right in the boat next to the villager. I went in to try and get rid of the creeper, but I didn't realize this can still happen. And yeah, they were gone. Anyway, it was time for a farming run, and look at this. Our crops were really starting to come in. If we keep this up, we'll have a fully packed animal pen by day 100. Another wolf ended up spawning, and I didn't hit this one. I didn't have any more bones, so I couldn't tame it yet, but that was the plan. And get this, literally like 30 seconds later, a chest spawned with several bones. How convenient.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I tamed him and we became best buds. I think this was actually my first time taming one. This was kind of the start to my very poorly organized chest setup, and it gets far worse towards the end of this thing. Trust me, you'll see. But anyway, I put another chest over by the farm where I could store things like my seeds and carrots, and also the bones. And you won't believe it, but we got another wolf not long after, which I immediately tamed. We now had 2 guard dogs at our disposal, which we were about to need big time.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, apparently monster parties are a thing in one block. I had no idea, and obviously I wasn't prepared for this. Luckily, this was one of the easier ones. Right now, it was only zombies we had to deal with, and I saw it as the perfect opportunity to see what my new guard dogs were capable of. They were doing pretty good, but then the zombies started fighting back, and I was a little bit too late.
No, he killed my dog.
I got one of the pups. Oh, and it was a miracle I didn't accidentally walk off the edge here, because when a monster party spawns, it apparently breaks all of these blocks every time. So I got that all patched up and actually added a second layer. I also moved the farm chest since the mobs were using it to hop over the fence. And look at all this iron, 11 pieces here. I only had one dog left. But you know what? Let's not downplay him. He was one to be feared. And look at this. We ended up getting an iron helmet off this stray. One less thing we have to make. We had another one spawn in and I accidentally hit the dog. So I tried healing it with that same piece of cooked rabbit and it actually seemed to work. The next chest had an ice block in it and we got ourselves another pup. One bone wasn't enough, so I had to give him two. I put them to work on these spiders and that's when this little guy showed up. Another zombie villager. This time, it was a kid. So I made another boat and waited for him to jump in it. He didn't want to though. He just wanted to fight me. Angry little guy. So I had to build myself a little bridge over there to lure him inside of it. Before I even went any further with him, I decided to put up a fence to keep mobs from running over and catching me off guard. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking here, but getting in the boat was not a great idea. He was punching me in the back. I didn't really know what to do with him, so I just built a nice little dirt cave around him. The next day, I wanted to work on expanding the farm, but in order to have more crops, we needed more water. So I was trying to figure out a way to create an infinite water source. I wasn't really sure what this blue ice did, but I figured it could probably be melted into water somehow. I even tried placing torches around the ice to see if it did anything, which it didn't. Then I tried using a campfire to melt it. Still nothing. In the meantime, I grabbed all the iron from the furnace and crafted an iron chest plate as well as some boots. We now had a full set of iron armor. When I returned to the ice, it was still there, and when I broke it, it just disappeared. I tried the same thing on this piece of ice and nothing. I had no idea what I was doing. I just needed more water. When the last chest appeared, there was another block of ice and also a dark oak sapling. That's when I had the idea to try the fire strat on this block. And guess what? It worked. It melted, and now we had another source of water. I scooped it up and used it to get below the platform so I could start building a second layer to the farm. Having it set up like this, I could now continue making water holes wherever needed. Once that was done, I set up a 1x3 area and put water down on both sides to create the infinite water source. And I almost took out all my crops doing so. Now that we had our farm expanded, I planted carrot and wheat until every plot was occupied. It was day 10 and I started things off feeding the animals. I figured it'd be a good idea to build a second layer below the main area because we're going to be standing mostly here for the rest of the 90 days. Knowing my luck, I could easily see myself falling through at some point. I had reached the end of phase 2 and noticed my pickaxe was low, so I went ahead and made another one. We were now starting phase 4, the ocean. I didn't think there would be much of anything useful in this phase, but I immediately got a bunch of sand, which I can use to make glass. There were also tons of ores and just random colorful blocks mixed in. I was surprised to see what came next. Turtles. 2 of them. I had no idea what to do with these guys, so I just kind of let them do their own thing, and they went straight for the crops. Probably because it's like camouflage over there for them. Not long after that, I got my first diamond. I was in for a wild ride of random ocean mobs that were going to be spawning, including this squid. We had no use for it, so he had to go. One of the chests had a turtle egg in it, so we could have made more of these guys, but you know, I don't think I actually ever did anything with these. The new threat was drowned zombies. Well, I thought so anyway. But just like the spiders from earlier, they didn't seem too bothered by me. A fish spawned and I tried to save it, but wasn't quick enough. The real threat was these guys. I completely forgot they existed. So this took a little bit of trial and error to figure out how to efficiently get rid of them. They were also destroying all of my crops. I was taking way too much damage, so I backed off and used my bow to finish the job. And yeah, look at everything I had to replant. Got everything back to normal and I started expanding the platform more because I wanted to move the animals again. I was getting pretty tired of hearing them moo. You know, since they were right next to the infinity block, I was kind of forced to listen to it. But once again, I'm using oak planks and not slabs. Trust me, I know, not very efficient. I wish I could go back and tell myself. Anyway, I got the new fence border all put together, and all I had to do now was open the floodgates. They weren't coming in by themselves, so I had to give them a little motivation, you know? Some good old carrots and wheat did the trick. Once most of them were in, I closed off the fence and used a block to lure in the rest. Now that they were all over there, it was so much quieter over here. The next day, I decided I wanted to move the zombie villager so I could get rid of this dirt cave he was living in. First, I started expanding another wing on that side of the platform. I went to check on him and he was still alive. He didn't look too happy though. Anyway, I was using some of these blocks I had been getting from the ocean phase, but I ran out before I finished his new home, so I had to go back to mining. We ended up having to deal with another guardian, but this one, it wasn't a big issue for us. It actually ended up just falling off into the void. So I grabbed the blocks I mined and placed them down at the new cave. This phase was giving me tons of items I have never really used before, and the mobs were new to me too. I finally got to experience pufferfish, which I can't say I'm a huge fan of. There didn't seem to be much use for this stuff either, but this stuff, oh yeah, we definitely needed that, and now had 2 diamonds. Another one of these guardians spawned in, except this time it was the big one, and they are a lot more difficult to fight, especially when you don't have a lot of cover. So I made myself something to hide behind and started taking shots at it with my bow. This strategy was actually working pretty well, except when I shot my turtle. But yeah, it was just bouncing all over the place, and eventually it just kind of jumped off the side of the map. I was really hoping this would happen every time. I went to let the zombie villager out, and that's when I noticed I had this effect. I don't know what it's called, but it makes it so you can't mine anything. You also can't chop anything down either. Not very fast anyway. So rather than wait it out, I figured I'd try and be somewhat productive. And this is when I learned that you can use bone meal on grass blocks. Never knew that. But yeah, check out all these carrots we had going. There were at least 40 of them, and I gave a good chunk of them to the pigs. Now that it was dark, it was time to move the zombie guy. I built him a pathway with some sand and tried using a water bucket to propel the guy forward into the other cave. It didn't work though. The boat couldn't get through the narrow entrance. So after widening the pathway, I tried again, and this time it worked perfectly. I added a roof to the place and finished pushing him inside the cave. After closing him off, I got the place all cleaned up, and yeah, we were done with that. I had run out of arrows, so I made some more, and I also made another iron shovel. I forgot that I hadn't placed my bed back down, so I went ahead and did that. And what's the point of these things spawning in? These dolphins. These guys don't stand a chance. And this sound is horrible. I mean, there was some water nearby, but nothing big enough for the 2 of them. The next day, I went to check on the mob shack, and there were actually tons of mobs in here. But, I messed up again. We still got a little XP from it, I guess. I felt like the place still wasn't tall enough for Endermen, so I built up even higher. When I got back to mining, I had even more turtles spawn in. This place was starting to get overrun by turtles. And guess what we got after this? Another monster party. And this one was probably the hardest one we've had yet. There were like 4 guardians, including this big one. So I ran to the other side of the fence, built myself some cover, and I'm really glad I made those arrows because they came in handy here. I thought I felt something pushing me, and yeah, there was a turtle. My question is, how did it manage to get outside the fence? Anyway, it definitely seems like if you wait long enough, the guardians eventually find their way to the edge of the platform where they just jump off into the void. That took care of the big one, but I had to take out the little ones. All that was left were these drowned zombies, and yeah, they kind of hurt. They were throwing their tridents at me, so I had to back off a bit. Eventually took them out though, and noticed there was actually 1 guardian left. It was trying to blend in with the farm animals. Once again, my farm was completely destroyed, so I spent a few minutes putting that back together. Probably should have just waited until the phase was complete, but I was still getting some crops out of it. My thought was I needed to keep the breeding up just in case some of these guys get taken out by mobs. I did a bit of wood cutting that night and planted some more trees. Once again, I was still using planks instead of slabs to expand. I happened to notice an Enderman on top of the shack, so I quickly put together some cover and looked it in the eyes. Turns out he couldn't teleport to me and was actually stuck at the gate. So I had to open it for him and run back to my hiding spot. And yeah, you won't believe what I did next. I slapped the guy right off the side of the map. Such a waste of time. By this point, I was starting to get the itch for building a house. I'm guilty of building them like 30 days into my playthroughs. So I figured let's try and do it a little bit early. On day 13, I started building out another wing and I put down some torches to keep mobs from spawning. Here's an overview of what the place looks like so far. And it was at this point where I logged off the world for the first time. I shouldn't have done that. When I logged back on later that day, I got back to mining, but I noticed something a little bit strange about it. It seemed like I was no longer in the ocean phase, as I was getting basic blocks from, like, the intro phase. And then I got a pig, and then a water bucket. Not long after that, the phase was over, which took a total of, like, 2 or 3 minutes.
Why does it feel like I reset?
Yeah, so turns out if you log off the world, the game resets and you start at the intro phase again. You can see how this starts to complicate things from here on out. If I wanted to start a phase, I had to finish it in the same session. Otherwise, there was no reason to start mining again. Fortunately, there is a way to skip phases, which I didn't hesitate to do. So I started the next day off mining gravel for flint, and with that flint, I made some more arrows. I was tired of eating watermelons, so I took out some of the animals and threw their meat in the furnace. Because I had to start the ocean phase over from scratch, I was getting some of the rare items again, like these diamonds. So to keep things fair, I just threw them into the void, which was really painful. This also meant I had to redo the monster parties, and they didn't go quite as smooth as the first time. Yeah, not sure how it got me through that, but it did. Anyway, spawned back in and ran over to grab my stuff, but there were just too many mobs and I died again. I went back a third time and most of my stuff was still there. I lost a couple things since I was so close to the edge, but oh well. On day 15, I made myself a new iron pickaxe and got my farm back in action. Remember when I said the turtles were starting to overrun the place? Well, since I had to restart this phase, it was now even worse. There were turtles everywhere. So I just got rid of a few of them because they were just getting in the way while I was mining. And guess what? More turtles. I just can't get away from them. I put my dogs to use and they took out a guardian for me. At some point, I got a trident off one of the drowned, so I decided to give it a try. And man, these things they're kind of fun. That night, I got to use my bed for the first time. Day 16, I started expanding the farm even further, and as I grew this thing, I had to reposition the fence so mobs couldn't sneak onto the main part of the platform. I did a little bit of breeding and got back to work mining. Ended up getting a music disc out of a chest, and I figured I'd hold on to it so you guys don't give me a hard time. But I have no idea how to use them. Anyway, I finally got caught up, and that was the end of the ocean phase. We were now moving on to phase 5, Jungle Dungeon. I could already tell this was going to be a good phase because I was getting tons of cobblestone and some of the mossy variety. I was going to need a good amount of this stuff for my house. Speaking of the house, I decided to take a break from mining and start doing some serious building. I grabbed all my planks and look at this. I actually made some slabs. Finally, using my brain. Because I suck at building, I went to Google for some inspiration. And here's the design I had in mind. I started off planting some dirt because I kind of wanted to have like a yard in the front. Then I started expanding this entire area with oak slabs. And I had quite a few of this stuff because I've been cutting down a lot of trees. It's funny because I thought this size platform would be enough for the house, but I actually ended up adding on to it later, several times. It was time to start on the house, so I put down some spruce stairs. Then I worked on the deck and the flooring for what would be the interior of the house. Next, I made some cobblestone slabs and threw some in the furnace to make stone. The next day, I finished the flooring and I went all the way to the edge of the platform. After that, I was trying to decide what kind of wood I wanted to use for the support beams. I had some dark oak logs and I was really liking how they looked, but I only had 14 of them. I took a short break to cut down some trees and planted some more to keep the wood supply coming. I used the dark oak logs for the corners at the front of the house and I paired that with regular oak logs. Then I stripped the wood down and as you can see, I clearly didn't have enough dark oak logs to go all the way around. And check this out. You see these? Those are dark oak saplings. If you don't already know what's wrong with this, Don't worry, I'll explain a little bit later. I had a few dark oak logs left, so I got them set up, but I was still going to need a lot more of these. Back at the furnace, I had a bunch of stone ready, which I used to make stone bricks, and I turned those into slabs. The next day, I was trying to figure out how to recreate this part of the house. I just couldn't wrap my head around what kind of blocks they actually were. I was using slabs, but I couldn't get them all to fit under the flooring. While I was waiting for my dark oak trees to grow, I put a spruce log next to a dark oak just to see how much of a difference there actually was. I have to say, I still like the dark better. So I went to plant another dark oak sapling because I had 3 of them. In the meantime, I threw some sand in the furnace and turned it into glass panes, which is actually my first time using these. I've only ever used like the full-on glass blocks. I gotta say, these look way better. I was getting kind of low on iron, but I had to make myself a new axe. And we had a slight problem. Mobs were starting to spawn near the house because I hadn't lit up the area yet. There was a skeleton just hanging out in my house, so I took him out and put down some torches. I ended the night chopping some more wood, and look at all these saplings. This is so satisfying. I set up a new chest over by the house so I could start storing some of my building supplies nearby. On day 20, I decided to get back into the mining grind and just finish up the jungle dungeon phase. And we had some new visitors, parrots. I've actually never seen these in the game before, but these guys are pretty cool. They seem pretty happy to be here too. I thought this one had fallen off, but he was just a little trickster. I literally sat there and watched them for like 3 minutes. They went right over and settled down with the cows and the pigs. I was getting quite a bit of cobblestone, but I was a little worried about what monsters were going to be in this phase. That's when this guy showed up. Before this, I had never fought one of these before. Didn't even really know what they were called. Apparently, it's a Vex, and I've learned to really hate these things. Luckily, it seemed like there was only one that spawned, but even that was still a challenge for me. When I got back to mining, I thought I heard something, and sure enough, there was another one hovering over the void. I went to check it out, and that's when he attacked me. I took it out pretty easily though. Since my pickaxe was nearly broke, I made a new one, and I also went ahead and crafted up a new sword. And hey, check it out. Another new mob added to the list. These jungle cat things. And you know, I'm not really sure what happened to these guys, because they never made it to day 100. I got quite a few of them too. Oh, and what's this dried kelp stuff for? Someone let me know down in the comments. I'm curious. I turned around to check on my dark oak saplings, and they still hadn't grown into trees. I got some redstone, and then we had another new mob show up. It was a panda, and it looked like it was walking right over to eat my pup. It didn't though. Seems like these are actually pretty friendly. But yeah, lots of cobblestone this phase, and some witches too. These are not very fun to fight. I had to get my dogs to help me out here, and we were all taking damage. Since they were hurt and did such a great job, I figured I'd reward them with some good old rotten flesh. And yeah, still no trees. I started the next day off with a farming run, and I was getting an insane amount of carrots. I mean, nearly 2 stacks of the stuff. And of course, I fed most of it to the pigs. Guess what? We got some horses, and they were like conjoined twins. One thing I've been wanting to do in this game is ride a horse, so I tried making a saddle, and I couldn't actually find a recipe for it. Yeah, well, it turns out you can't actually craft a saddle, but you can get them from villagers. So that idea was gonna have to wait, and yeah, still no trees. The next chest I got had another game-changing item, sugarcane. I was gonna need a lot of paper for our future enchanting table setup. We got some more parrots and also some more diamond. That makes 3 in total. I went to go plant the sugarcane, and I totally forgot how this stuff works. But while I was mining, I accidentally hit a horse, and my dog friend thought I was in trouble. He came running over and started attacking the horse. I, of course, was freaking out trying to get him to stop. He just looked at me like he was trying to figure out what he did wrong. Anyway, I got some more diamond, and not long after that, I had 2 Vexes spawn in on me. They immediately slapped me and went under the map. I managed to get one of them, but yeah, I have no clue where the other one went. I got some lapis, which is going to be useful once we start enchanting things. And then this happened. Definitely the hardest monster party we've had yet. There were like 2 or 3 Vexes, witches, and spiders. Now I was getting slapped, so I ran back to my house for cover. Blocked myself in, but they just followed me. I couldn't get away from them. I got a few good hits in, and then I noticed there was a witch waiting right outside my front door. I thought it couldn't reach me, but then it chucked a potion right at me. And I was nearly out of food here. I had 2 steaks left. It looked like the witch ran off, but it saw me and came right back over. I was trying a hit and run strat and it was kind of working, but then it threw another potion and now I was really in a pickle. I completely ran out of food and I had half a heart left. I was stuck in here. The witch was just waiting for me. I was looking for another way out around the side here, and that's when the witch came running over, tossed another potion, and I died instantly. I didn't even have time to react. So yep, another death. I went back to grab my stuff and smacked the witch right into the void. Once again, I died right on the edge of the platform, so I likely lost more stuff. It seemed like I have most of my tools, but I needed to replace my armor still, so I made a chest plate. I also needed some arrows, so I took out some chickens for their feathers. There was one problem. I couldn't figure out how to actually get in there, and when I broke the fence, they all tried to escape.
No, no.
You ever make a noise and wonder what the heck that was? Yeah, that's me right now. Anyway, I decided to just open the gates and lure them all back in with seeds. Not the most efficient way, but I needed the feathers. I got them all pinned back up and there were 2 chickens hiding behind this chest. They thought they were sneaky. So I made my arrows and the next day I crafted up a new bow. On day 22, I got back to work mining and got some more diamonds. My pickaxe broke, so I couldn't actually mine this one. Since I had 5 diamonds, I decided it was time to actually make a diamond pickaxe. And with it, I got back to work. Had to do a quick sapling check and still nothing. 2 more witches spawned in and they were beating me up pretty good. I only had half a heart, so I had to back off and just shoot arrows. That's when I accidentally shot this horse, so once the dog was finished fighting the witch, again, it thought it was time to attack the horse. I had to quickly run over there and separate the 2. But hey, what's this chicken doing over there? He was definitely hiding from me. I set up another chest so I could continue dumping items into it, and you can see I was trying to stay organized, but trust me, this didn't last very long. I had more horses spawn in, and man, this dog is just too loyal. I didn't know that was possible. 2 more witches spawned in, so I ran back to the house, pillared myself up thinking they couldn't hit me, and I was definitely wrong about that.
No way, he hits that. Oh my god, they're gonna kill me.
When I got my health back up, I ran out and knocked one off the edge. I then made the mistake of recruiting my dogs again for the last witch. It was stuck on the other side of the fence and one of the pups got hit by poison. Unfortunately, he didn't make it.
No! He killed it!
I felt so bad for the other one. He was now all by himself. It seemed like I was getting pretty close to the end of the phase because I was getting tons of good ore. I mean, we had a really good streak of just iron and redstone. It was crazy. Then I got a chest which had another diamond and some jungle saplings. And that was it. The end of the jungle dungeon phase. I then had the super bright idea to use bone meal on those dark oak saplings. And I used like 9 pieces of it, which did absolutely nothing. I collected some iron from the furnace and threw a bunch of cobblestone in it to start making some more stone. As those finish up, I made more stone bricks, which I turned into stairs this time. I also crafted up some of the other decorative pieces for the house, including some signs, trapdoors, and some of these mossy cobblestone walls. I ended the night feeding the pigs, and I happened to notice one of those horses found their way into the pen. Oh, and there were tons of skeletons on top of the shack.
Oh my god, there's a lot of skeletons.
Day 24, I went back to the house to see if I could finally figure out how they did this stone foundation thing. I felt like I was getting a little closer to figuring it out, but it still hadn't clicked yet. This time, I was using stairs. I went off to the side and experimented a little bit more, and that's when I stumbled across this, which kind of looked right. So I went ahead and built a couple of those onto the house, and while most of it looked good, something still seemed off. It wasn't symmetrical with the other side. And then I ran into the original issue. How am I going to seal off the area below the flooring? The next day, I got tired of working with limited space, so I started expanding the platform further with oak slabs. I still had quite a few of these, so I took things back 3 or 4 blocks. After staring at the build design for like 30 minutes, I thought I had finally figured it out. So I tore everything down and started rebuilding the foundation of the house. I got all the stairs lined up and then put down 2 stone bricks to close off the gap. Then I realized I had to remove the floor underneath the walls so I could use the same stair design here. I don't know why it took me so long to figure this out, but hey, now I know and I can use this for future builds. It was finally starting to look pretty good. I checked my building supplies to see how much dark oak I had left and it wasn't much, but I decided to go ahead and use up what I did have. Day 26, I put down some more stairs around the side of the house, and then I worked on building up the walls walls, which I use mostly oak logs for. If you couldn't tell by now, I'm not the best at building in this game. I mean, look at this. It's not symmetrical. So I had to move this beam over one, and yeah, we pretty much had all the walls done at the front. As I continued making my way around the house with the foundation, I realized I was going to need to expand the platform again. This was going to be a bigger house than I originally thought. So I used up more oak slabs and expanded further. And with that complete, I was now able to easily build the backside of the house. But first, I needed more stone. In the meantime, I put up some of those mossy cobblestone walls on top of each of the stairs and the deck. Then I used some gates to connect each of the walls, which created a railing. And it looked awesome. Then I put spruce fencing on the corner pillars and used the trapdoors to connect the stone stairs. I spent the rest of the night chopping more wood, and if you were wondering, still no dark oak trees. Next day, I closed up the rest of the stone foundation using stone bricks and just regular cobblestone. I finished up the flooring inside the house and started working on the foundation on this side. Since it was so close to the edge, I had to be extremely careful here. I finished up the stairs at the back of the house, then I started working on the side walls, and I made sure I left a nice big window in it. I didn't have enough oak logs to do the entire back wall, but I at least got started on it. We got ourselves a door put in, and I placed down some more of these mossy cobblestone walls on the front porch. That and the fencing really tied everything together. Took a short break to gather more oak logs and got more of the back wall put up. I also went ahead and expanded that one side of the house that was just way too narrow. I threw all my building supplies back in the chest and did a farming run. We ended up with tons of wheat and carrots, so I bred the animals. And man, check out how many of these guys are packed in here. Our chicken coop was lacking though. I definitely needed to get more of these guys going. One fox gets in here and they're all gone just like that. I did a quick inventory check to see if I had any more cobblestone and used up the last bit I had, making more cobblestone stairs. With that, I was able to complete the stone stair foundation of the house, and it was looking great. I also added in more of the stone brick stairs here and there just to add a little bit more contrast. I had a few more of those mossy cobblestone walls, so I put those up and went back over it with the spruce fencing. Oh, and I put another big window on the back wall. I wanted to have more natural light inside the house. I had enough oak logs to finish up the back wall, and I started what would be the roof. Next, I put up these trap doors and opened them all up. And it looked good, but we really needed the dark oak logs to finish those pillars. So after 10 days or so, I finally decided to look into this on the wiki, and guess what? These dark oak saplings, you need to group them together in a pair of 4 in order for them to start growing. Wow, lesson learned. So I ripped those out of the dirt, and I got at least 3 of them set up. I didn't have a 4th yet, but the rest are ready to go. Also, I finally decided to make some bowls and try out that mushroom stew I was talking about earlier. I don't know why I put this off for so long, because this is amazing. It is literally an infinite food source, and it actually heals a decent amount. I spent the rest of the night stripping down the wood around the house. I also took a quick peek in the mob shack, and you'll never guess what I did. I managed to blow the place up yet again. Well, I didn't. The creepers did. And somehow this skeleton managed to survive. Just kidding. Day 29, I had a new idea, a big brain play that was going to make these next 5 phases much easier. I put up a fence around the infinity block with the intent of trapping any mobs that spawn within it. That way I can stand outside and mine and just easily take out the mobs when they spawn. With all the oak wood I gathered overnight, I was able to finally finish up the walls of the house. I stripped that down and then put up more trapdoors on the other side of the house. Since we weren't getting any more dark oak wood anytime soon, I started considering just using spruce logs instead, and that's exactly what I did. I started off just filling in the empty spots and stripping back the wood to see how things blended together. I wasn't a huge fan of it though, so the next day I got rid of all the dark oak and replaced it with spruce. Something I should have just done from the get-go, because honestly it looked just as good. It wasn't as dark, but it just needed to be darker than regular oak. Since there were still so many gaps in the platform, I decided to start connecting them to minimize the risk of falling. Next, I got to work on the roof, and that took a little bit of trial and error too. I used stone brick stairs and slabs, and it turned out looking really good. So I went back up and started filling things in with spruce planks and made a window, and it was really starting to come together. Now, just to do the other side and the roof.
It's looking pretty dang good, man.
It was at this point where I heard an ice cream truck outside in real life. course, I had to check it out. Keep in mind, this is like February. It's like 40 degrees outside. I don't know why there's an ice cream truck going around. The next day, I got back to work on the roof, putting spruce logs all the way across. Next up was the stone stairs, and I think this part of the roof is called the eaves. I don't know, but I wasn't quite sure how to make a corner piece, and well, there was nothing to worry about because it's actually really easy. So I ran the base of that all the way across and started building up the triangular part, but I ran out of stairs. Since I had plenty of spruce wood, I figured I'd work on filling in the rest of the roof. Then I ran stone brick slabs across the ridge of the roof. With that in place, it made it a lot easier to round the corners here. And wow, it was looking awesome. We just needed to finish up the other side. I ran out of spruce and cobblestone though, so I spent the rest of the night chopping trees. On day 32, I got back up there and added more spruce stairs. Then I filled in this side with planks like I did the other. To finish the rest of the roof, I was gonna need more cobblestone, which meant I needed to start mining the next phase. Before I got started, I put down a bunch of gravel to get some flint and made myself more arrows. It was time to start phase 6. Red Desert. There was a lot of sand in this one. Red sand. Oh, and check out what spawned in. Llamas. 2 of them. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do with these guys, but I figured we would let them roam around for now. They were content with staying inside the fence, so I had to give them a little nudge. But anyway, I was getting some pretty good stuff like emeralds, lapis, coal, and more diamond. Then something else spawned in. Fortunately, I was prepared this time. There was no way it could get to my chickens now. I was having pretty good luck with the diamonds and emeralds, but with any new phase comes more junk, meaning I had to set up another chest. When I got back to mining, there was another surprise waiting for me. A villager.
Oh, what's up, dude? What's your name? Fernando? Oh, you have a name.
Being that there's likely several waves of hostile mobs waiting to spawn, I wanted to make sure Fernando was safe and out of harm's way. Yeah, he didn't seem too excited about living in a cage. I'm not sure why. I mean, he would be right next to the chickens. The guy was trying to get away from me.
No, you're going the wrong way.
So I tried building around him instead, but he wasn't having that either.
No, no. Seriously? No, no. Get in there. Get. No. Oh my god.
So we had to resort to plan B, which involved the shiny green stuff. He seemed kind of interested. Obviously wouldn't actually take them, but maybe I can lure him towards me.
Why don't you come back in here?
Yeah, he said no and walked right off. He eventually came back, and now I'm convinced that this strategy, it actually works. Look at this. He tried going after that emerald. He walked right past the second one, but he was walking right towards the cage.
What if we do this? Yep. Go. Get in there.
I finally caught him. It took like the entire day, but he was now safe, kind of. I got back to mining and noticed I was getting some different kind of wood. I got some more diamonds and emeralds. Then we had our first set of hostile mobs spawn. These desert zombie guys. I don't know if they actually have a name or not, but that's just what I'm gonna call them. They weren't that much of a threat, especially with our new fancy fence installed. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. I mean, look at this. None of them could touch me. I was completely safe. The next day, I got more diamonds and another surprise spawned in. It was a wandering trader. It was missing its llama companions though. The chest that came after Pamela was full of bones and XP bottles, which I used up immediately. Since I've been putting chests so close to the fence, I had to add a second layer of fencing to keep these guys from getting out. But hey, check it out. Donkeys. And I was already trying to get them killed.
No.
Turns out these guys can't walk through gates, so anytime they spawn, I needed to break the fence down so they could get out. I went to let out my dog and he went right after the donkey again.
No, stop killing the donkey, man.
I figured it was about time I get my sugarcane farm going, so I planted some next to the water. That night, I decided to build another cage next to Fernando's so we could safely store Pamela away too. She was nowhere to be found though, which was really weird because I thought I blocked off all the ways out of the fence. But then I thought I heard something. It sounded like a villager. I just didn't see anything. I was so confused. I checked under the map and everything, but no sign of Pamela. As I got closer to the sound, I started wondering if somehow she was stuck inside a block. But I didn't see anything. When I woke up the next morning, there she was, standing right in front of me. She just appeared out of thin air. Anyway, I kept trying to push her into the cage, but she just kept walking off anytime we came close to it. She was super interested in my turtles, though. I got tired of chasing her around, so I just built a cage around her. And it's a good thing we trapped her because we immediately had a monster party when I got back to mining again, and it somehow destroyed my safety fence. This was a fairly easy one though. None of them had ranged weapons, so I could just sit on the other side of this fence and take them out. Once they were all gone, I got everything put back together, and this time I went one more block out like this. I could still mine the infinity block from here, but my hope was that it could withstand the monster party attacks. We had a couple more llamas join us, and there was something interesting in the chest below them. It was a heart of the sea. Gonna be honest, I have no idea what that is, and if it was even useful for me here. Anyway, another villager spawned in, and his name was Eric. Eric was a lot more cooperative. He went right over to the cage I built earlier where I gently pushed him inside. When I got back to mining, I thought I lost my diamond pickaxe. I don't know what happened, but it just disappeared out of my inventory and I couldn't find it anywhere. I didn't see it on the ground and it wasn't in the pile of blocks.
My pickaxe. My diamond pickaxe. Hello?
And when I opened the farming chest, it just magically reappeared in my inventory.
What?
In the next chest, there was a trader llama spawn egg, so I could have given Pamela some friends, but yeah, I don't think I ever touched this again. I ended that night planting some more sugarcane. The next day, I was just doing some mining, and my man Eric over there was just staring me down. Felt kind of bad because he didn't even get a chance to explore before I locked him up. Not long after that, we had a new friend join us. The guy's name was Ian. Ian was just as confused as Eric. He had been here a total of 15 seconds before he got locked up. Trust me, it's for their own good. I was having a pretty good time taking out these mobs. Easy XP. This phase was also paying pretty big in terms of iron. I had quite a bit of it smelting down and even more of it waiting in the chest. I got the last chest of the phase, which had more emeralds and XP bottles. And just like that, phase 6 was complete. Instead of jumping right back into mining, I decided to take a break and did some wood cutting. My next plan was to build a house for all the villagers so they didn't have to live in cages. I figured the perfect place to build it was the same wing we left the zombie villager on. So I started expanding the platform further using some of those oak slabs. Day 37 was the day I actually started building the place. I was aiming to build like a long haul type of thing. I wanted it to kind of complement the house, so I used the same materials. Since we were starting a brand new project, we needed a lot more wood, so I planted rows and rows of oak trees. And check out this donkey. How's he doing this? He's just floating. I don't know how he didn't fall there. I got most of the walls put up and I happened to notice this little guy was hanging out up top. Went over to see what he had in his mouth and he must have been terrified of me because he ran off so fast. Anyway, started working on the interior of the building and I added like a counter slash stall type of thing. My plan was to put the villagers behind it. That way I could walk in and just trade them at the counter. I also wanted to build a back room that they could kind of hang out slash sleep in. So I expanded a bit more and worked on building up more walls. I ran out of wood before I could finish the job, so I had to get back to wood cutting. And somehow I nearly died again just cutting down trees.
What the? Oh my god.
Day 38, I got all the walls finished up in the back room, and because we were now at the very edge of the platform, I figured I would expand just a little bit further so I could walk behind the building if needed. Oh, and I expanded the sides a little bit too. Next, I started working on the roof using the same strategy I used on the house, except this time I decided to use mossy cobblestone stairs, and it looked pretty good. I put down mossy slabs across the ridge of the roof, and I started filling in the roof with spruce stairs. Again, similar to what we did at the house. There was still a lot left to go and I was starting to get low on building supplies. Went over to the junk chest to see what all I had left and that's when I overheard this. It was one of the donkeys crying for help. The guy somehow managed to get stuck inside of a tree, kind of like what happened to me. I don't know how, but I ended up freeing him. I made myself a new iron axe and started chopping down some of the oak trees I planted earlier. And then a storm rolled in. The first storm we've seen yet. It was a nasty one too. On the bright side, the rain was good for our crops. But then I heard lightning, and all I could think about was the incident that happened in my last 100 days video. All of my pigs got struck by lightning. I've been told lightning rods can keep them safe, but unfortunately I didn't have enough copper to craft one. So there was nothing I could do but wait it out. And I got a little nervous every time lightning struck. But anyway, I distracted myself with some farming and I worked on building out the second layer underneath. With that taken care of, I was able to put down another water source and more sugarcane. There were quite a few carrots ready to be harvested. Oh, and there was also some watermelon. With all the fresh crops, I bred more animals and holy cow, there were tons of them. The rest of the night was spent adding a few more pieces onto the roof of the house. I still needed more supplies, but I used up what I had to get things a little bit closer to being done. And check this out. How did this llama even get up here? He was asking to get struck by lightning. Can't even lie though, he looked pretty cool sitting up there. His next album cover. It was still raining the next day, and I decided to go check what Pamela had in store. That's when I noticed she had spruce saplings, which I could definitely use. But yeah, I just spent the next day gathering more wood and building onto the villager hall. Eventually, the rain let off, the sun came back out, and I was making pretty good progress on the roof. I had mostly finished everything. All I had to finish now was the ridge and fill in the sides. But as you can see, my supplies were getting pretty low here. So I took another break to start building out the farm more. I really wanted to ramp up my sugarcane farm because we still needed to get a lot of paper, and it was already pretty much day 40. I got the platform expanded out and started laying down some rows of sand. Next, I worked on filling up the pits with water. See how handy this infinite water source is? Once that was all filled in, I planted all the sugarcane I've gathered this far, which wasn't much. But in a few days, we'd have tons of this stuff. Back at the villager hall, I broke into this thing to see if this little guy was still alive. And he was. But I needed to figure out what to do with him because I wanted to move all the villagers and traders over to this building. There was something going on over here though. Another wandering trader showed up, and this guy was the llama whisperer. That, or he was secretly trying to turn them all against me. I don't know. But I did notice the guy had a lead on him, which somehow I ended up with later. He didn't really have anything good to trade. Anyway, it was time to move everybody into their new home. So I let the traders out, and Eric was a lucky guy. He got a first-class ticket in this luxurious wooden boat. Yeah, no, I figured this was just the easiest way to move them to the new building.
He looks incredibly uncomfortable right now.
It was a little scary though. I couldn't go in the front door, so I made an entrance around the side and had to carefully row the boat along the edge of the platform. Once Eric was settled in, I went back for Fernando, and he hopped right in, but so did Ian. Eventually I got Fernando in the boat and rowed him over to his new spot, right with Eric. There was only one concern I had, and it was that I hadn't closed off the roof yet. I mean, the place was lit up pretty well, but I wouldn't be surprised if I came back later and these guys were zombies. Before I did anything about that, I figured these guys needed some beds, because that was something else I wanted to do. I've never actually bred villagers in the game, so I went and made some wool out of string and crafted up some beds. When I got back to the hall, I closed in the roof to keep all the bad stuff out, and I placed down their new Tempur-Pedic beds, and they hopped right in. Probably because they've been stuck in a cage standing for the last 15 days. Oh, and this is where I finally understood what was happening with the wandering traders. It was much more obvious here that it was just invisible. Apparently that's something they do, I guess. I don't know. The next day, I chopped down the walls of oak trees I planted earlier, and then I went to check on the sugarcane farm, and we pretty much doubled what we had originally. The mob shack was still in ruins, so I finally decided to rebuild it, and now that I had more wood, I went ahead and expanded it while I was at it. This time, we went even wider with it, and this should allow even more mobs to spawn in. I had some cobwebs that I broke down for their string because I wanted to make even more beds for the villagers. And check out the mob shack. We were back in business. With the 8 diamonds I've gathered, I decided to finally make myself a diamond sword. I still needed more wool, so I went over to try and kill some spiders for their string. I kept having to do the hit and run strat with the creepers. When I looked inside the shack, there was another enderman in there, so I quickly put together another shelter and went over to get the guy's attention. And I kind of messed up, because when I let him out, I left the door open for the creepers to come join. Now, I had to fight an enderman and avoid the creeper at the exact same time. I couldn't keep it from blowing up, but at least I survived. We also had this fella to deal with. It was another zombie villager. You won't believe it, but I managed to hit this enderman off the map too. Why did I keep doing this? Anyway, I went and closed the gate, took out this spider, and replaced these oak slabs. While I was doing that, I happened to notice another enderman in the shack. There were tons of mobs standing between us, and I couldn't quite get the angle to look in his eyes. But check this out. These guys were so desperate for me, they fell right over the side. So I finished taking out the mobs that were in the way, or I thought I did at least. Yeah, that was almost really bad. I finally got the enderman to come over by himself, stared him right in the eyes, and when I took him out, nothing. No pearl. I went back to repair the mob shack during the day, and somehow I just made things worse. There was one creeper left hiding in the shack, and it couldn't get to me, so I decided to mess with him. I acted like I was gonna let him cross by building a nice little bridge. Then I hit him with one of these. Anyway, got everything put back together and went over to buy some of those spruce saplings for Pamela. I only had like 1 or 2 spruce trees growing at a time, so this was gonna help speed things up. And man, you gotta love trees like this. You know, the ones that you can't reach and the logs are hidden throughout all the leaves. The good thing was I was getting tons of apples, which were gonna come in handy later on. I mean, we had like 30 of them. What's with all these animals somehow getting in high places? This turtle was coming down from the trees. I don't know how he even got up there. I went back over to the villager hall and put down another bed. But yeah, I had no idea how to breed villagers. I read on the wiki they like bread and carrots, but I couldn't figure out how to actually give it to them. I assumed you just use them on the villagers, but that didn't seem to be the case. Eric looked really confused as to why I was trying to force feed him carrots. I went to check on the mob shack for more spiders, and that's when these 2 little guys showed up. It was a zombie riding a chicken. Aren't these pretty rare? Anyway, it caught on fire almost immediately, but the chicken, it survived. And I tried rescuing the chicken, but he went right back to the mob shack. I guess he's one of them now. Since I gave them my bed, I had to spend the night at the villager hall with Fernando and Eric. The next day, I started on a new mini project. I wanted to make it a little bit easier to take out these mobs. So I used the water bucket to get this thing started, and the water was spreading like crazy. While I was down there, a turtle came out of nowhere, and he just started swimming around in the water. This guy was having the time of his life. And then look at this. Another one dropped in. I guess they must migrate to wherever there's water, and since there wasn't much of that above on the platform, they decided to come down here. Now what was I supposed to do? This water thing was supposed to be temporary. I mean, look at how much fun these guys were having. So I can't get rid of the water unless I want to lose them. Anyway, I continued building towards the back of the shack, and then I started a staircase up behind it. Because I don't trust myself, I also built a safety net behind the stairs to keep myself from falling over. Last thing I want to do is lose my diamond pickaxe and iron tools. And then I put another gate up to keep the mobs from sneaking onto the main platform. The next day, I finished up the stairs and I had to do something about the water. So I scooped it up and quickly went below the staircase where I was going to place the water, but somehow we had spread the water out so much, it now just stayed there. And because it was no longer in the way of the stairs, I just decided to leave it how it was. We had this nice little hole here where we could look inside to hit things. I couldn't quite reach the skeleton anymore, so I made the hole bigger and the chicken came running back out. I was able to hit each of the mobs like once before they just walked off and wouldn't come back. I added a little bit more to our safety net here, and then I had a new idea. I removed one of the planks from the floor and put a slab down so I could get a little bit closer to the inside of the shack. And what do you know? It worked. I just had to be careful of the creepers. When I took everything out, I dug my way in and there were several spiders stuck in the corners of the ceiling. I ended up getting a little bit more string and the chicken, I trapped him back inside. I was getting some more stew when I noticed this foxtail sticking through the fence. He must have been trying to get to my chickens and got stuck. It was time to start phase 7, which was the nether. I was a little worried going into this phase because I wasn't sure what was going to spawn. And once again, my handy dandy fence came in clutch as we had 2 piglins spawn in. I kind of wondered if I should start trading them, but they turned into zombies pretty fast. So I just got rid of them and went back to mining. Guess what I got? The first piece of ancient debris. I was super excited because I was not expecting to get this stuff. I was also getting some obsidian and I forgot how long it takes to mine this stuff. But just like every other phase, I had to put down a new chest to store all the new items in. That night, I took a break to go look for spiders. When I built this thing, I was worried about mobs jumping off from above, but I think I built it far enough away that they couldn't actually make the jump. Anyway, I got rid of this spider and went to look inside the shack. Somehow this chicken is still alive. There were also tons of mobs in here, so I took them all out and got some more string from the spiders. I now had enough to make the last piece of wool I needed, and with that, I finally had a bed again. I was mining the next morning and I got more ancient debris. I also spawned in some of these magma cubes and the fence was doing a pretty good job because they couldn't get out of it. And then one of these spawned. It hit me pretty good, but still, it was no match for the safety fence. But I wasn't prepared at all for what spawned in next. 2 blazes. I didn't even consider the fact that these guys might spawn, and they were about to cause some serious destruction.
Oh, this isn't good. No! No, 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 no. No. Oh, no.
I was just trying to put out the fires before they had a chance to spread. I don't know what I was thinking here, but I ran away from them instead of just taking them out as quick as I could.
Oh, Oh, I wasn't prepared for this. Oh, no, no, no. Oh my God, no, this isn't good. This isn't good. I didn't think about this. Oh my God, no. Ah! Oh! 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 Oh my God. No!
I finally got rid of both blazes, but this was far from over. By this point, everything was on fire. Most of the trees were gone. The house was up in flames. Some of the animals were burning or trapped, waiting to fall into the void.
No, Ian! Ian! No! No!
This whole situation was just terrible, and it could have been prevented or at least minimized had I just taken out the blazes immediately. There was just so much happening at once, and I didn't know what to prioritize. Do I save the main platform? Do I save the house? I don't know. I didn't know what to do. The fire just kept spreading and I couldn't put it out fast enough. I then had the idea to try using a bucket of water, and I think this is where my priorities shifted. I saw the house and the trader stuck outside of it, so I felt the need to get over there. I grabbed some blocks that shouldn't break from fire and made my way to the house. I pillared myself up to the roof and poured out the water, hoping it would extinguish the fire, but it wasn't enough. Oh, and check out these llamas. They must have been absolutely terrified. We had a pretty good spread on this water, but I decided to just go down and firefight. Things were just spreading too fast. I made my way around the house, smacking out every flame I could. Eventually, I think I had contained the fire in the house, so I scooped up the water and made my way outside. I had to build my way back to the main area of the platform where there was still an ongoing fire. I also noticed the chicken coop was completely exposed, so if a fox managed to survive, he could have easily wiped out the entire chicken population. I got that temporarily blocked up, and man, yeah, I don't even have any words for this. It was truly devastating, to say the least. Not only did they destroy most of the house and the platform, but I died and lost some of my items and all that XP I had banked up. It was a huge setback, but I wasn't going to let that stop me from finishing everything I wanted to accomplish. On the bright side, we did get ourselves our first blaze rod, which I was going to need to get to the end. I saw the fox lingering around the chicken coop, so I figured I'd better seal it off before things get even worse. Then I made myself a new iron axe, and it was time to rebuild. I turned all the oak logs I had into slabs and got to work. I still had a fair amount of logs left, but I figured it would be a good idea to get more trees going. Oh, and since it was kind of pointless having the dark oak saplings in the ground, went ahead and ripped those up and threw them back in the chest. I had pretty much finished filling in the platform, so I got rid of all the debris in the house. There was no chance I was going to let this happen again, and I had an idea. I decided to build a structure around the infinity block made out of blocks that won't catch on fire. I knew we were going to have to deal with more blazes. It was more just a matter of when. Building this thing was probably the best idea I had the whole playthrough, and I hate that I didn't think of it sooner. I didn't have a whole lot of iron left, but I made another shovel and a shield. With those two items, I was prepared to continue the phase. Unfortunately, because I panicked and logged out during the fire, I had to restart this phase. But like I did before, when I got caught up, I threw all the rare items into the void to keep things fair. Painful, but we've been through worse. When I got back to mining, we got to put our fireproof shelter to use. 2 more blazes spawned in, and somehow one of them put a hole in the roof. Luckily, they didn't escape and I took them out pretty quickly. So after that, I went up to the roof and added an extra layer just to be on the safe side. I didn't want any blazes sneaking out, causing even more chaos. There were quite a few interesting mobs that spawned during this phase, like this guy. He was looking at me funny. After looking it up on the wiki, I couldn't see any use for him, so he had to go. Then we had wither skeletons spawn in, and I didn't see myself fighting the wither on this platform, so I wasn't too worried about getting skulls from them. I took a short break to get more flint, bred the chickens, and took out some of their feathers, which again, I had a hard time actually grabbing. Once I actually got my hands on them, the next problem was figuring out how to actually get out of this coop. I put down a slab to try and jump out, which didn't work, so I just had to use the gate, and luckily none of the chickens got out. And this is a fair warning. You might want to turn down your headphones here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the most horrible sound I think I've ever heard. Looks like the shelter is working pretty good though. Anyway, I went and made those arrows and I was doing my best to keep things organized. But guys, by the end, these chests look absolutely terrible. I literally just started throwing things in wherever I could. The next time piglins spawned, I thought I might be able to trade them now that they're out of the sun. So I grabbed some gold, went back in and started throwing some at them. Yeah, I don't know how this transforming thing works, but it didn't look like this was going to be possible. I got some more interesting chests with some nether warts and magma cream. And then I got hit with another one of these.
Oh my god, that is such a jump scare, man.
Oh, and I built a little cubby here that I can use to hide in, you know, just in case I need a heal. But it looked like our fortified roof was working as expected. The next day, I got more ancient debris. And then we had our first monster party in the nether. This wasn't a fun one. Lots of screaming and fire going on. I took a lot of damage during it, but I eventually took them all out and ended up with another blaze rod. This is kind of how the next few days went. But one thing I did get was a lava bucket, and I was super excited about this because it meant I could finish the house. Turns out an easy way to get tons of cobblestone is to make a cobblestone generator. But before we did that, I wanted to try and finish this phase. So I got back to work mining. I got some more blaze rods, took out some wither skeletons, and filled up a chest with a bunch of random blocks. Oh, and I spent what felt like hours mining obsidian, which we definitely still needed, but it took a while. My pickaxe was about to break, so I made the decision to use more diamonds to craft a new one. Most of our trees were back, so I spent the remainder of the night chopping them down. Seriously, how did they do this? We made it to day 50. I went back in to finish the nether phase and this llama was just sitting here. So I helped him find his way out and got to work. I was already pretty close to the end of the phase, but hey, look at this. I ended up getting a wither skeleton skull after all. The final chest came around and it was a really good one. It had blaze rods, netherite scraps, blaze powder, and another lava bucket. And I was so glad to be done with this phase. When I went back outside, there was literally a forest waiting to be chopped down. So I did some wood cutting and these trees were thick, man. I guess that's what happens when you plant them so close together. That night, I started working on the cobblestone generator. I was a little bit worried about the lava catching things on fire, so I built a small area off the platform with blackstone. Call me paranoid, but I did not want to have another raging fire on my hands. So once that was all put together, I put down the water and the lava, and we had our first piece of cobblestone. This thing was awesome. I spent most of the night gathering as much of this stuff as I could stand, which was about 2 stacks worth. I threw most of that in the furnace to start making stone. The next day, I added another road to the sugarcane farm. Look at all this sugarcane. With all this, I could pretty much triple the size of this farm. I also had quite a few carrots and wheat waiting to be harvested, so I scooped up all of that. While I was replanting some seeds, I noticed I had another watermelon ready. Then I fed the animals and spent the rest of the day prepping all my stone building supplies for the house. On day 52, I woke up and immediately got to work rebuilding the house. There was a lot of work to do. I started with the front and got all that put back together. Then I worked on the front patio area. We were missing a couple of the pillars there. I got the flooring put back in inside the house and started working on the decking, but I ran out of slabs. About that time, a wandering trader came walking over, and the guy had no self-awareness because he was standing right where I needed to build. So I gave him and his pets a gentle push and yeah, let's just say that that was a bad idea. He didn't really care, but his llamas, they weren't too happy with me. They were chasing me down and spitting at me. Eventually, they lost interest and I got back to work on the house. I got the front stairs put in and the porch was pretty much complete. There was still a lot of logs missing in the walls, so I worked on filling all that in next. It's a good thing we've been keeping the trees coming because it took a lot of wood to replace all of this, but it was really starting to come back together. We were just missing most of the roof. I was getting kind of low on iron, so I decided to switch things up and start making stone axes. The next morning, I cut down a few spruce trees, planted some more, and went back to the house. There was a lot of weird stuff going on over here, and I thought I heard spiders underneath the house. So I broke into the floor, and sure enough, there were tons of them down here. Probably like 5 or 6 of them. I did get lots of string from this, so I suppose that's good, but there were also tons of bats down here, and I didn't want a noisy house, so I got rid of all of them. I left a couple torches under there to keep things from spawning again and sealed it off. To keep things symmetrical, I added a few more windows to the house. It also just made it a lot brighter in there. I got that fencing put back up around the house, and then I started working on filling in the roof again to get it back to where it was before the fire. Now that I had stone, I could actually finish the roof, and man, it was looking awesome. There really wasn't a whole lot left to do. I put up the rest of the fencing around the house, replaced this gate on the deck, made some more glass panes, and I started filling in all the windows. We had a lot of them. Ended up running out of glass, so I threw some sand in the furnace. In the meantime, I cracked a bunch of eggs, and then got right back into it. Does anybody else have allergies? Mine must have been really bad because I just couldn't stop sneezing.
Ah. Ah.
On day 55, I used my shears to gather a bunch of leaves from the various trees I planted. And I probably got way more of this stuff than I needed, but better to have too much than too little, right? Something like that. Anyway, it was time to decorate this place and make it look like we actually live here. So I added like a fence beam above the main windows. And yeah, I used oak instead of spruce to change things up. The next thing I wanted to do was add some plants or like a flower bed type thing. So I replaced these slabs with dirt and I went all the way around the side of the house with it. I then planted some carrots and wheat, and that's when I realized I need water for these things to actually grow. So I went one slab down and filled this in with water, or I tried to. The water just kind of disappeared. I don't know. So I got some more and put some next to all the crops. The next day I remembered I had some of these flowers, but I couldn't figure out how to make the really tall ones. They didn't seem to stack and bone meal had no effect on them. With all those leaves I collected, I started putting some out on the ledge just below the windows. And we had the variety pack. I used a little bit of each. I did the same thing on the other side, and I also added these signs that I made forever ago. They really helped tie everything together. I don't know how they put flowers on the bushes in their build, but I couldn't seem to figure it out. I added just a little bit more fencing to connect everything to the roof, and there was really only one thing left to do. I wanted to add lanterns, but those require iron nuggets, and I didn't have much iron left. So what's the next best thing? Torches. I had enough of those to go all the way around the house, and wow, even that made the house look that much better. I got rid of the trees that were directly in front of the house because they were blocking the view. And check out this llama. Dude got too comfortable in my house. After making myself a new bed, I went back to remove the llama from the premises, and guy's head was a little bit too big. He couldn't actually get out the door. Ended up having to remove the entire door just so he could get out. But I did get to end the night in my nice new cozy home. The next day, I got back to work on the villager hall, stripping down the wood around the building. This llama was really interested in what I was doing. I noticed I was getting low on coal, so I threw some logs in the furnace to make charcoal. Then I made some more mossy cobblestone stairs and finished up the roof, starting with the eaves, eventually making my way up to the ridge. I really needed to expand the platform around the building because getting down from here was pretty risky. Now I just needed to seal off the sides with logs and planks. Day 58, I used more of these mossy cobblestone walls and fencing to accent the front and sides of the building. I also added some windows to the front. The door I had put in led right to this little guy. I really needed to find a new home for him. Anyway, I got the fencing put up around the back and I started working on filling in the rest of this with oak logs and spruce planks. I used the same exact design as the house and I'm surprised at how well it came out. I even threw down some of those trap doors and put more fencing above the windows. It was long overdue, but I worked on expanding the platform next to the building. I also added on a bit more next to these stairs because I was really worried about misstepping and falling into the void. I finished things off by adding more torches around the building, and the place was looking pretty dang good. Day 59, I forgot about the back side of the building, so I went back, sealed that off with planks, got the window installed, put up the trapdoors, and laid out the fencing. Once that was all done, I figured it was finally time to do something with the baby zombie villager, but I tried to move him without actually getting inside the boat, and yeah, that wasn't working, so he was gonna have to stay here a little bit longer. I went to restock on mushroom stew and check out our farm. It was nearly fully grown. Back at the hall, I went ahead and removed the protective ceiling that I put above the villagers. Since the place was now fully sealed up, there was no longer a need for it. I also realized I still hadn't stripped all the wood in here, so I took care of that too. With that knocked out, the place looked a lot better. It was at this moment where I randomly remembered the turtles and wondered how they were doing. And well, I don't know what happened, but they were nowhere to be found. I'm hoping they didn't go all the way down there. But hey, check it out. The wheat had finally grown in at the house, and the carrots too. There was one more thing I wanted to add onto the house, and that was a chimney. I remembered I had gotten glowstone from the nether phase, so I wanted to see what it looked like. And well, when I placed it down, I don't know if this guy ate it or what, but it just disappeared. I wasn't too sure I wanted to use this on the roof, so I stuck with the good old campfire strat. And on day 60, I climbed back onto the roof, made a hole, and built the base of the chimney using cobblestone. Next, I put down some trapdoors around the sides, closed them all up, and threw a cobblestone wall on the very top. After removing this block, I put the campfire inside, closed up the trapdoor, and we were good to go. We now had an infinitely smoking chimney. I probably could have gone a little bit higher with it, but it still looked pretty solid. I ended up giving my bed to the villagers because I really wanted to have a bunch of these guys running around the place. There were now 5 beds in here, and I finally figured out how to breed these guys thanks to the Minecraft wiki. I didn't have much wheat to make bread, but what I did have was tons of carrots. So I started tossing them at the villagers. The only downside was it takes like 12 carrots for these guys to even consider breeding, and it felt like I gave them way more than that. But eventually a bunch of hearts appeared and a little one showed up. I was hoping for a lot more, but I guess it doesn't work like that. The little guys seemed pretty hungry too, but they weren't letting him have any. I figured I'd try this with some bread next to see if I can get more villagers going. And this man Eric was yoinking up all of it. It was a bit selfish, so I had to feed Fernando when he wasn't around. But yeah, that wasn't working very well. Eric kept sneaking up and yoinking it.
No, Eric, back off.
It also looked like the little kid was stealing the bread from Fernando. I threw another piece down to check, and dude, Eric almost got it again. This poor kid was getting scolded too when I don't think he actually took anything. Anyway, I kept doing farm runs to gather more carrots and went back to feed them all to the villagers. I was literally making it rain carrots, and guess who was getting most of them? Eric. The guy is literally a vacuum. He consumed every carrot in sight. Glad I don't live with him. Let's just take a moment to appreciate how well this place turned out. I'm not a great builder, but man, it was fun actually putting something like this together. It looks awesome. The sugarcane farm was growing fast, and I didn't have anywhere else to plant these things. So on day 61, I decided to add on to the farm. I still had a decent amount of regular sand from the ocean phase, so I started laying a bunch of that out. But man, look at all this sugarcane. This small little addition I made wasn't even enough to plant all the sugarcane I've harvested. So I turned a bunch of oak planks into slabs and got back to work making this farm even bigger. We now had a nice big runway of space next to the animals. The next morning, I got out of bed and this creep was looking in my window. What's this guy's problem? He must be mad still about me kicking him out earlier. I started the day adding more rows of sand to the farm. I was getting low on regular sand, so I decided to use up some of the red sand I got from the desert phase. I wasn't sure if I'd need more glass at some point, so I wanted to make sure I held on to the regular stuff. I filled up both rows with water, which took multiple trips because there was just so much area to cover here. Once that was done, I started planting the sugarcane, and check this out. Give this like 2 or 3 days, and it should produce enough paper to last us the rest of the playthrough. While I was putting some stuff away, I noticed something walk into the villager hall. I went to check things out, and look at this.
Little kid just running around. Oh, there's another little kid. Look at that. Wow, there's tons of them in there. Oh, we got an iron golem.
Yes, I was gonna try and spawn one, but now I didn't have to. Oh, and this is why you lock your doors. This little guy managed to escape, and he was just running from me. He went behind the house, and then I lost sight of him. I don't know what he was planning on doing back here, but I made a small hole in the wall, and he walked right in. When I went back inside, I opened up the counter area and added a ladder. You know, that way I could easily check on the villagers without having to break down the wall. That's when I remembered the iron golem was still here, and I had a new plan for him. I locked the villagers away, threw a lead on the guy, and started working on getting him outside.
All right, how about now? Yeah. Oh.
Oops. My plan was to put the iron golem inside the safety fence, right next to the infinity block. He was going to be my bodyguard. That way, anytime a mob spawns or a monster party starts, he can just destroy everything for me. I was having a little bit of a hard time getting the guy inside though. I figured I could just drop him in from the roof, but he kept running off. That's when I remembered you can use trapdoors for this sort of thing, but I made a big mistake.
A little bit closer. And... oh, hold on. Oh, oh! Uh-oh. So mad. Oh my god, he's mad.
Yeah, the guy followed me back to the house and trapped me inside. I had no choice but to take him out and just try to spawn another one. At the very least, I got some more iron. The next day, I made a fletching table and also a lectern because it was time to give Eric a job. Eric the librarian. I blocked him in and went to feed the new villagers. Not really sure why I needed more of these guys, to be honest, but I gave them a bunch of food anyway. Fernando wasn't too excited about getting a job. I mean, I can't blame him, but you gotta work to make a living. When I was headed out of the building, I happened to notice this. This just seemed like a bad idea, but I left them alone and went to make a bunch of paper with the rest of the sugarcane I've harvested. With that paper, I was able to make my first few trades with Eric the librarian. Now that I had a taste of that, I went back out to harvest even more sugarcane, and wow, look at the sky, man. I love these shaders. Anyway, I went back to the hall where there was now another cat, and I traded more paper for emeralds. Eric could now move on to being an apprentice. I went to check on the other villagers and look at them all sleeping soundly in their beds. I spent the rest of the night at the mob shack, and there were so many mobs inside. Look at this. There was a little bit of everything in here, and I kind of wondered if the chicken was still in there. Hopefully not, because one of the skeletons shot a creeper and that caused the guy to blow up. Somehow there were still like 5 creepers left in the place. So I carefully took out all of them, and I gathered the loot and XP. I must have been bored here because I just threw a bunch of eggs into the sky. Don't worry, I had a lot more of them too. On day 64, I decided to start phase 8, which was idle. I had no idea what to expect in this one, but I hopped right in there and started mining away. It started off pretty good. I was almost immediately getting emeralds, and I also got some iron and more diamonds. It seemed to be a mix of all the good stuff from the previous phases. But then a bee spawned in, and I was fully expecting it to attack me. It didn't though. It just went right to the ceiling, and it seemed like a fairly friendly bee. I threw what iron I mined in the furnace and set up yet another chest for the many items I'd be gathering during this phase. When I got back to mining, I almost immediately spawned in more bees, and these guys, they weren't friendly. Not sure what I did to upset them, but anyway, I took care of them and went to loot the chest, which had some pretty dang good stuff in it. I guess I missed it, but there were actually 4 bees that spawned, and these 2 got me by surprise. And the next mob that spawned were these donkeys, and I really didn't mind getting them. It was just a pain to get them out of the cave. The guys did not want to leave. Well, it didn't help they can't seem to fit through narrow doors and 2-block high ceilings. Must be the ears. I gave them a little bit of encouragement, but still, they weren't moving. But hey, another iron golem, and we didn't even have to do anything to spawn it. So I got them all set up inside the cave and covered things back up. The next day, I got another diamond, and this thing spawned in. A skeleton horse. I didn't realize these were in the game, and I wasn't sure if they were hostile. Turns out they aren't. I probably could have kept him around, but I wanted to get through the phase and not spend too much time messing with animals. I was already having to deal with these llamas sneaking in behind me. But check out what came next. Phantoms, and they couldn't really go far because of our nifty cave here. We also had this zombie horse join us, which looked pretty cool. It was a lot like the donkey though, and that it couldn't fit through the gate. I went to grab a boat from the chest outside when I noticed another iron golem had spawned. Huge. I tried moving the horse with the boat, but yeah, apparently they don't get in them, and I just kept mounting it. This llama was really starting to get on my nerves, man. I was so close to getting the zombie horse outside when this happened.
God, I hate these llamas.
But hey, check it out. More diamond. I had pretty much already filled up our phase chest, and this bee was being very good. I got the first monster party of the phase, and man, it was terrifying. Look at all the bees that spawned in. I couldn't believe it. They were swarming me, and there were also quite a few phantoms that spawned
Oh my
in.
god, there's so many bees.
It's a good thing we have this iron golem now because he was a huge help. Just look at him smack this phantom into another dimension. We had a lot of donkeys spawn in this phase, and it was really starting to become a problem because they just did not want to leave the cave.
Why do we have to hang out in here? Huh? Why do we have to do it?
I finally got all the animals out of here, so I put up these 2 gates to keep them from coming back in. My valuables chest was looking pretty nice, and we were starting to get the iron supply back up. Day 66, I got some more golden carrots, some honey bottles, oh, and this iron horse armor. I definitely had some plans to use this, but let me tell you guys, I was really starting to love this phase. You just gotta love these mining streaks where you just constantly get good stuff. I mean, I was getting emeralds, iron, a chest with XP, and a birthday cake. I was also getting several diamonds. And guess what I got next? Dark oak saplings. And now that I had 5 of these, I could finally start growing them. Not only that, but I ended up getting this out of the last chest. And I was clearly very excited about it.
Ooh, a saddle!
But that was it. That was phase 8 complete. I went outside and bam, there was another iron golem taking a stroll around the platform. I farmed up some of the crops and decided to add a border to the edge of the farm. I really didn't trust myself running around this area. One wrong step and I fall into the void. So I put up this fence. After that, I climbed on top of the shack to put down some torches because I didn't want any mobs spawning up here and jumping down on top of the fence. I started the next day with a sugarcane run and there were tons of this stuff ready to be picked. Why is this so satisfying to do? Anyway, I turned all that sugarcane into paper, which was about 3 stacks worth. I went back to the villager hall to do some trading, and there was yet another one of these guys.
We have iron golems everywhere.
I gave the villagers some bread, and now it was time for Fernando to get his very first job. It was now a fletcher. I wasn't a fan of the trade options though, so I broke his fletching table, put it back down, and now we could give him some sticks, which I could very easily get. I had quite a few logs and planks banked up still, so I turned a bunch of it into sticks. With that, I made a few trades with the guy, leveling him up to an apprentice. I was really racking up some XP from feeding the animals too. And check out all these pigs. They were literally tossing me around to the point I couldn't even get out. I made sure the chickens got some food too. I went back over to the house to start working on the interior. I put down a couple of the necessities like a crafting table, furnace, and 2 chests. And the next day, I got to work adding a loft to the place. It's funny because I didn't really do too much with it once I was done. I probably went up there like twice, but it felt like the place needed more stuff in it. I added some fencing down below to support the stairs, then I put down another chest. I wanted to make one of those armor stands, so I crafted up some smooth stone to unlock the recipe, and then put it down over here in the corner right next to my bed. And you know, this is also kind of funny because I don't think I ever did put my armor on it. Anyway, I planted a bunch of trees and cut down what was already grown. We were gonna need a lot more sticks to continue our business with Fernando. And later that night, I escorted one of the iron golems out of the villager hall. The next morning, I went back to do some more trading, and the guy was now an apprentice. I crafted up another fletching table and put it down in the stall next to Fernando, but I made the mistake of hitting the villager. And because he now had a table to jump onto, he climbed right over and took off running. Yeah, that one's on me. So I chased him down, threw him in a boat, and took him back inside. But anyway, the guy became a fletcher almost immediately, and I decided to trade emeralds for some arrows. It was another stormy night, and I went to do my usual farm run when I had an idea. I wanted to try and make an infinite lava source. One reason is because I wanted more obsidian for a nether portal and an enchanting table. But yeah, I wasn't aware that it doesn't quite work like the infinite water source. Apparently you need dripstone or something. So I gave up on that idea for now. And the next day I decided to grab the obsidian blocks I did have to see if I could actually make a portal. I figured there was no better place to put it than on top of the mob shack. So I made my way over and started placing down the obsidian. One of these days I'll figure out how to make one of these using water and lava, but that day's not today. I had just enough obsidian to get it all put together, but now we had a new problem. I no longer had enough to make an enchanting table. I needed 2 more blocks of it. So I decided to dive headfirst into the next phase. Phase 9, Desolate Land. This was another phase where I had no idea what to expect. It seemed like I was in a stronghold just based on the blocks I was mining. Then this guy spawned in and I thought I backed away quick enough, but nope, it blew up, and when it did, did, it took out a good chunk of the safety cave. So I got the place all put back together and got back to mining. That's when I got more diamonds. I don't know what happened here. This wasn't a monster party, but a bunch of these skeleton horsemen spawned in. I'm so glad the golem was around because he did all the dirty work for me. I just had to hide.
Get him, Golem. Yeah.
And when he was done, we were left with the horses. There was only one downside to having the golem in here. He would sometimes walk over the infinity block while I was mining it, and then this would happen.
Why you bullying me?
Hey, he did it to himself. We had another one of those creepers spawn in, and fortunately I was able to get outside before it had a chance to blow up. When I went to peek inside, I noticed it had this blue barrier glowing around it. Not sure what this means, but I could still take it out with a bow. When I got back to mining, I got another diamond, and then this thing spawned in. I don't like these things because they spawn the little Vex guys. They were doing some damage to the golem, so I went in to help out, and I got slapped by whatever this thing was. We managed to take everything out, and I noticed something on the ground. Turns out it was a totem of undying. I've never used one before, but I hear they're extremely handy if you're playing hardcore. I was not, so didn't think I really needed it. The next chest I got had another lava bucket in it. So on day 71, I decided to try and make some obsidian using water and lava. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't want to waste this lava, so I just looked it up on the wiki. Pretty easy, actually. I figured I might as well use up the other lava bucket, so I did, and I got another block of obsidian. Now that I had 4, I went ahead and made an enchanting table. Next, I got to work building a small area for it, right next to my house. I put down some stone slabs and threw the enchanting table right in the middle. I went to grab some of the lapis from the main chest and went back to the table to see what enchantments I could get on my diamond pick. I don't know how, but I totally forgot about bookshelves here and jumped right into enchanting my tools. Because of that, I was only able to get efficiency 2 on my pickaxe. All of the sword enchantments were the same, so I just went with the cheaper option with the intent of disenchanting and trying it again. But first, I had to make a grindstone. I decided to build a cover above the table using stone slabs and cobblestone walls. That way I could hang the grindstone from the ceiling. With it right above the table, I could easily enchant and disenchant with ease. Funny enough, I had pretty much the exact same options next time around. Once I got it a third time, I figured I would just stick with it and try to get a better one later. I spent the rest of the night just expanding the platform on that side of the house. Oh, and I put down a chest right next to the enchanting table to store my lapis. The next day, I finally remembered the reason I had been gathering so much paper, and I made a few bookshelves. It was starting to get pretty laggy around the main part of the platform, probably because there were about 500 cows and pigs crammed into a tiny fenced area. So I figured I'd get rid of some of them just to keep my PC from catching on fire. After that, I made a few more bookshelves, and now we had all 15. I went back over to the enchanting table and placed one down, and it was floating. Anyway, I put all the bookshelves down and filled in the gaps with slabs. I had 9 diamonds, and I wanted to upgrade my armor situation, so I made myself a diamond chestplate. I was gonna need to get more diamonds though, so I can repair my pickaxe and make more armor pieces. Now that I had a bunch of iron, I figured I'd make a smithing table. On day 73, I expanded the enchantment area a bit further so I'd have a place to put down the smithing table. And then I went to upgrade my chestplate with some of the netherite I got earlier. Yeah, totally forgot you have to craft this stuff into bars first. Would be nice if it worked like this though, because I had several scraps. So I went and smelted the rest of the ancient debris I had, and I made one netherite bar with everything. With that, I upgraded my diamond chestplate to netherite, and now we just needed to enchant it. So I grabbed some lapis, went to the enchanting table, but the options weren't that great. I went with the level 1 option, disenchanted it, and threw it back in there. The options were projectile protection or just protection, and I figured protection was better, so I went with that. I went ahead and re-enchanted my sword, and I got sharpness 2. With the upgraded gear, it was time to get back to mining. And check out this guy just absolutely ruining these mobs. The guy's a beast. This is seriously the best idea I've ever had. But all good things come to an end. Yep, a monster party spawned. And the Iron Golem was already pretty weak from all the fighting he's done. Yeah, you guessed it. He didn't make it. And let me tell you, this was not a fun party. There were tons of Vexes we had to deal with. Every time I took some out, the evokers spawned even more. I really got to work on taking these mobs out quicker. Anyway, I took out as many as I could, and I happened to notice the other 2 golems were getting involved. So I started luring the Vexes over over to them, and they were doing all the work for me. All I had to do was run around and avoid getting hit by both the Vexes and the Golems. I didn't want to get smacked accidentally. After it was all over, I went and replenished my health with some delicious mushroom stew. And let's just take a moment to appreciate the sacrifices the Golem took for us. But that night, I grabbed my lead and brought the next one in. On day 74, I got right back to work mining, and we had a bunch more of these skeleton horsemen spawn in. They didn't stand a chance, and neither did I, apparently. I guess the Golem wasn't too happy with his new job. I got another diamond, and then all these silverfish guys spawned in. They couldn't get me through the gate, and check this out. I accidentally sent one into the void. Not long after that, I got another diamond and realized I still hadn't enchanted my bow, so that's what I did next. Look how quick the Golem takes out these evokers. This is why we have them in here, and I've got the other one outside to help with the Vexes. I was really starting to rack up these totems. Now that I had enough iron, I decided to make an anvil, which required a whole block of iron. My diamond pickaxe was getting pretty low, and I was going to repair it with one diamond, but I figured I would just make a new one instead. Doing it this way allowed me to get another enchantment. I ended the night with a farming run and fed the animals to get some of that XP back. I woke up the next morning to this massive rainbow. There was no pot of gold, but we did get ourselves more iron and diamond. A couple more evokers spawned in, and I nearly died to these Vexes. Look at these guys chasing me back to my house. Unfortunately, we lost another Golem though, so I threw another one in there and did a quick farming run. Man, I was getting tons of sugarcane. I'm not really sure I needed this much, but I kept it coming just in case. I finally made myself some more iron armor just to help me get through these last two phases. On day 76, I watched the iron golem destroy more mobs, and then I got the final chest of the phase, which was just kind of okay. I mean, it had some XP bottles, which you can never turn down, but nothing else super useful for us. And that was the end of phase 9. One more to go until we can fight the dragon. I was starting to lag a bit again, so I took out some more of the animals. I hate to do it this early, but man, it gets too choppy when there's like 5,000 of them in there. I got rid of the ones that snuck off and threw a bunch of these eggs. I don't know why I kept doing this, because I just had to chase them down immediately and get rid of them. I went to check on the villagers, and this fox was just hanging out cuddled up right next to one of them. Well, I still had some of those eggs on me, and I guess I was really bored because I threw down some more. Little guy didn't stand a chance. It had nowhere to go. Anyway, the next day I made myself a new iron axe, and I was starting to get low on iron again. I only had like 5 left, so I needed to get back to mining, and it was time to start phase 10, the end. It was already off to a great start.
Bro, get out of the way! Get out of the way! Get out of the way, please. Sorry. Okay? Ow.
I was getting all the blocks you typically would find in the end, and when I got the purple stuff, I assumed it was only a matter of time before shulkers start spawning in. It did make me wonder though what kind of loot I was going to end up getting from the chests. I was really hoping for more diamonds and some enchanted tools. I got some of these spectral arrows, which I've never had a chance to use before. Oh, and guess what spawned in? An Enderman. Yep, because we were now in the end, kind of, lots of Endermen were spawning in. I know I've said this already, but man, seriously, this golem was the best idea I've ever had. There were a bit too many of them though, and we lost another golem. So I had to finish the last Enderman myself, and I actually got 2 pearls out of it. I had no idea how many I was going to need for the portal though, so I was hoping to get a lot more Endermen. There weren't any more iron golems outside, and I went to the villager hall to see if there were any hiding in here, but there weren't. So I had to do things the hard way. I grabbed a zombie from the mob shack and lured it over to the villager hall. The plan here was to scare these guys enough that they call for a new iron golem, and they were definitely freaking out. I thought I heard something outside around the back of the house, so I went to take a look.
Where I keep hearing one. Hey!
So I grabbed my lead and started luring the guy over to the infinity block. I started to feel a bit guilty though, because I was literally sending these guys to their death putting them in here. When I got back to mining, it looked like a shulker spawned in, but it just magically disappeared. I went outside to look for it and I didn't see it anywhere, but I thought I heard something. When I went to look under the platform, there it was, and it was already trying to shoot missiles at me. But hey, this is the kind of chest I was talking about. A diamond, ender pearls, and spectral arrows. Very nice. I mined another another diamond and got another ender pearl from this enderman, which puts us at 7 ender pearls and 4 diamonds. Then another one of those shulkers spawned, which somehow ended up under the map again. And apparently you can't shoot these things with a bow. I didn't know that. The iron golem was looking really rough. Pretty sure he was on his last legs. And it's a good thing we immediately got a monster party. Yeah, not really, because the golem didn't last very long at all. Totally understandable though, because look at how many of these things were in here.
Oh my god, there's so many endermen in there.
So I figured I probably shouldn't run in there, and instead I built this little enderman shelter. That way I could start taking them out one by one. They all teleported outside, and one of them was even taking blocks off the shelter. So I got rid of all the mobs, and I actually ended up with a couple more ender pearls, putting us at a total of 10. I did a quick farm run before I got back to mining, and hey, more diamonds, look at that. I was getting quite a few of them. I took a short break to go spawn another iron golem because I really didn't want to have to fight another one of those parties all by myself. So I dragged the guy over and got him all set up for the best job of his life, protecting me. I was getting kind of tired of hearing those shulkers, but I didn't want to kill them because then I miss out on getting their shells. The loot would just fall into the void. So I got back to mining, spawned a couple more of them, and some endermen, which got absolutely destroyed by the way. But hey, check this out. I went to go outside and look what was there waiting for me. A shulker had spawned right outside the door. And here's just another glimpse at how bad my organization skills were. Day 79, I got another item that I had no idea what to do with. But that's okay, because that was pretty much the end of phase 10. We finally had access to the end portal. Oh, and look at all these ender pearls I got at the very end. So glad I spent all that time trying to take out endermen earlier in the video. Definitely didn't need to do that. I went down to check out the portal, which was a mistake because there was still a bunch of shulkers down there just waiting for me. So I went back up immediately and officially ended the phase. And here's a look at our main chest. I had a lot to work with. Tons of iron, plenty of ender pearls, and a decent amount of diamonds. Now it was time to get rid of those shulkers. There were at least 3 of them below the platform. I knew if I didn't take them out, I'd probably regret it at some point. So I went to take out the first one and it got me. Fortunately, I was near the farm, which had our infinite water source to save my fall. That's when I got this idea. And it was a terrible one, but you know, I did it anyway. I threw down some water and went down below thinking I could just easily take out the shulker. Yeah, I got hit almost right away, twice. And I thought I was done for, but it's a good thing these send you up and not down.
Oh, that's a bad idea. I don't like it. Terrible idea.
After that, I figured I should probably put my gear away in a chest. I just had a really bad feeling I was gonna mess up and lose all my stuff. The next morning, I started building another set of stairs to get below the platform, hoping it would be far enough away from the shulkers. But apparently there was one over here too that was already focused on me. Let me tell you, this is exactly why I put away my good stuff. This right here.
Oh no. No. No! Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god! That was so cool. Oh no! No! I'll save you. I'll save you. Wait, no! Oh. Don't worry, I got you. No, wait, where are you going? No! No! I feel like I just made that worse. I feel like I just made that worse for him. I literally just killed the guy, I think.
I feel kind of bad for that one, but hey, thank God we had this water here because I probably wouldn't have survived that myself.
Okay, that was... Oh no, not again. Not again. Oh, we're going really high. Oh, there's one right here.
There were still a couple of shulkers left, but I wanted to try to build close to them in case, you know, they drop a shell. But everything was just going horribly wrong. I mean, this whole thing was just a mess.
Let's see, did we use slabs over here? Oh! Oh my gosh, there's so many. Oh, oh god! Okay, okay. Ow. Okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a better way to do this. Oh, we're so high.
The next day, I just gave up on the original plan, and it was time to just get rid of these guys for good. So I did my best to locate the first one from above, and I originally thought I might be able to use the water bucket strategy again, at least to save the drop. But the shulker just vanished when I mined the block above it. Turns out that actually causes them to teleport, and it was now sitting right behind me on the platform. So I ran over and quickly took it out, and yeah, I didn't get a shell drop from it. I moved on to the next one, and yeah, no shell drop on that one either. I heard another shulker nearby, so I went down to check it out, and it was right below the farm. And guess what? No shell on this one either. I'm so glad I didn't waste too much time building over to these guys, because I would have gotten nothing out of it. After that was all taken care of, I went back down and started working on building a platform around the end portal. Wasn't really needed, but I figured I'd just do it to add another safety net down here. I was gonna run it all the way over to the other side, but I ran out of planks. Oh, and somehow I managed to build the other side a block or two higher. You know, I don't think I actually ever finished this either.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's it? Really? Wow. Okay. All right. Oh, my. And we're dead. Dead. We just died.
I finally managed to do it. What'd I say? I knew I was gonna do it. It was just a matter of when. And aren't you glad I put all my stuff away? I sure am. I still lost a few things though, like my tools, torches, some wood, and a few other building blocks. Let's not forget about all that XP too. I didn't have much in the way of logs anymore, well, other than all those trees sitting there. So I grabbed my iron, remade some of the tools I lost, and spent the remainder of the night chopping down trees and planting more. On day 82, there were walls of trees waiting to be cut down. It must be the rain actually speeds things up, because they seem to be growing really fast. Anyway, I got a ton of wood, turned a majority of it into oak slabs, and I was now prepared for my next project. It was time to expand the platform even further. Before I fight the dragon, I wanted to build a proper barn for the animals to live in. So the first step was to continue building out this side of the house. Not only was this going to give me more space to work with, but it was also greatly reducing the risk of me falling again. You can't fall if there's nowhere to fall, am I right? So I worked on this for about 2 days, filling in this entire section of the platform. It was at this point where I realized I never did add fencing to this corner of the house. So I knocked that out real quick, and I finished up the expansion. I went back over to check on the trees, and this poor cow was stuck. I tried to save him, but I was too late. With some of the wood I cut down, I crafted up some more bowls. That was something else I lost when I fell. I filled up all the bowls and decided to put down a chest where I could store all my food. Something else I should have done a lot sooner. And guys, seriously, this is how I looked for stuff for 100 days. I bet there's a lot of you out there that are just absolutely cringing at this chest setup. But you know what? You guys are gonna have to cut me some slack, because it's not easy to keep things tidy in one block. After getting a bunch of wood, I decided to start trading again with Fernando to get some of that XP back. I still had a couple of things I wanted to enchant before the dragon fight. And check out this absolute unit of a tree. This was literally a tree house. It's actually a really good idea. I don't know why I haven't built a house in a tree yet. I have to do that at some point. I spent the rest of the night just doing some trading. On day 84, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to build this barn/stable thing. After doing a Google search, I found another design I wanted to try my hands at. And this one actually had a YouTube video showing how to build it step by step. Huge shout out to this guy for the inspiration. So I started off building the pillars of the place, and I used spruce logs. I was getting pretty good at this jump build thing I was doing. It didn't take me long though before I ran out of spruce, so I spent the rest of that day wood cutting so I could get right back at it on day 85. I had plenty of oak logs now, so I started working on filling in all the walls with it. I then crafted up some of these barrels, which I've actually never used before. I put these in front of each pillar and threw some spruce stairs on top of them. Next, I added some upside down stairs across the front of the pillars. On the sides of the building, I cut out part of the wall and added some stairs to the top and bottom to create a window, which I then filled in with fencing. And it looked pretty good. After chucking a bunch of eggs, I went back and grabbed a bit more cobblestone from our handy dandy generator so I could switch to stone tools. I didn't want to waste all my iron on these axes. I then got started on the roof when I was briefly interrupted by this creeper who I absolutely yeeted into the void. The roof was kind of fun though. I got to use a bunch of building techniques I never would have even considered, like using these trapdoors to add just a little sliver of height to the roof. Pretty neat. But I got the one side all knocked out and started the beam across to the other side. The other side didn't take nearly as long to figure out, but something did look a little off. I don't know if it was just the angle I was standing at, but it didn't look quite right. Maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. I got the window put in on this side, and now it was just time to finish the roof and work on the interior stalls. I used more trapdoors and slabs to create the ridge of the roof. Then I set up this little thing here, which I'm not really sure what to call it, but it's like a window thing that protruded out of the roof. I used regular oak trapdoors for the windows, and man, is it just me? Or do these things kind of remind you of pretzels? Man, I really got to go get some breakfast. This build definitely required a lot more detail and technique than anything else I've ever made. I filled in the rest of the roof with oak slabs and stairs, and the front of the roof was looking awesome, so I finished up around the back doing the exact same thing. I then put stairs on each of the front pillars, which isn't quite the way it's done in the tutorial, but I think it looks pretty good. Good enough anyway. Now I just needed to finish the inside, so I put down some stairs here and made sure each stall had 2 gates in place. Then I got busy building the actual stalls out of oak logs. I lit up the inside with torches, which made it look even better. Next, I started stripping down the wood so it would match the same style the house had going on. And this led into day 88 because I had to make another stone axe. These things don't last very long when you're stripping wood. Anyway, after that was all done, I started putting a fence around the perimeter of the barn. I wanted to have somewhat of a pasture where the animals could just hang out. So I took that all the way over to the other side of the barn and added a main entry point with gates and a couple extra entry points around the pasture. I went back inside to put up some fencing to separate each of the stalls, and the place was looking pretty good. There was only one thing left I wanted to do with it, and that involved dirt. So I finally got rid of those random dirt blocks that I originally placed on like day 4. I nearly fell through another hole. Must have gotten there from the raging fire we had. I grabbed the rest of the dirt from the chests and went back over to the pasture and started getting rid of some of the oak slabs. That way I could replace it with dirt. Ultimately, I wanted this to be grass, but I'm not really sure how to turn dirt into grass. Does it happen naturally? Is there anything I can do to speed it up? I don't know, but I got it put in anyway, and the whole place looked pretty sweet at night. Since this stairway was just kind of out in the open, I decided to add a wall along the side of it to again just kind of minimize the risk of falling into the void. But check this out. This place was finally starting to look like a regular Minecraft world. A house, a stable, a place for the villagers. I ended the night just planting a few trees around the platform just to continue making the place look a bit more natural, you know, so it doesn't look like one block. And that next morning, some of the trees had already grown in. This one was kind of overflowing, so I trimmed it up a bit. That way I could at least run by it if I needed to. Next, I planted some wheat inside the pasture. They're gonna need something to eat, right? Then it was time to start dragging some of these guys in there, starting with this donkey, who of course didn't want to step through the gate, so I had to make a nice big opening for it to come in. At least I don't have to worry about him escaping, I guess. Next up was this llama that was just hanging out in the farm. And look at this, the other llama couldn't wait to get in here. The dude was just sprinting over. I went to look for more and noticed the other guys were now living in the animal pen. I don't know why I thought I was going to be able to pull a cow out of here, but yeah, that definitely wasn't going to happen. Anyway, with all the wheat I've been harvesting, I crafted up some hay bales, and those llamas must have seen me coming because they were already trying to escape. That or they were just hungry, I don't know which. But I went ahead and placed a few of these things down around the barn to again just kind of make the place look a bit more natural. I wanted it to look and feel more like a farm, and I really do feel like I accomplished that. I cut down a bunch more trees and check out all the wood and saplings just laying around. I wanted to throw some chickens in here too, but this first batch of eggs, we got nothing. The next set though, we got like 4 or 5 chickens going. The next thing I wanted to do was replace these planks with slabs so I could just walk up and down with ease. Not a requirement, but I started doing it a while back and I never actually finished it. And yeah, I should have never even touched it because this happened.
No. Dang it. Well, there goes my pickaxe.
I couldn't believe I did it again. Luckily, all my gear was still in the chest, but all that dirt I had in my inventory was now gone. And that was the last of it, not to mention all the XP I racked up since the last death. Anyway, I made a flint and steel because I realized I never lit up the nether portal. I also went ahead and made all the eyes of Ender I needed to get to the end, which again, wasn't very many. Then out of nowhere, a wandering trader showed up. Haven't seen one of these guys in a while.
Oh, he's got dripstone.
Yeah, don't listen to me. I thought I was going to use this stuff and I never did. Remember, I was going to try and make an infinite lava source. Yeah, I never did. Didn't really need to. I also picked up some of this podzol, which I don't know much about, but it looked like dirt, so I traded the guy for some. I also went and traded for more arrows, mostly just to get more XP going. I got to looking at my gear, and I still needed to make more armor if I was going to fight the dragon. So I went to make diamond legs when I realized two things. One, it would leave me with one diamond. And two, I also noticed I lost my diamond pickaxe when I fell into the void. With that in mind, I decided to hold off on the armor and just make myself another pickaxe for now. With a pickaxe, I figured I could at least start the after phases to try and get a few more diamonds. When I went to enchant it, there were some pretty good ones like efficiency 4, but I didn't have enough XP for it. I went ahead and finally lit up the nether portal and did a farming run to get more crops so I could continue feeding the animals. This was one of the easiest ways for me to gain XP. On day 90, I was feeding the chickens and I accidentally opened the gate and let out a bunch of them. I didn't really want to go through the trouble of luring them back into the coop, so I decided to just migrate these guys over to the pasture. And it definitely wasn't my best idea because I totally forgot about the fox. It immediately ran over and started feasting on my chickens. I didn't know what to do with them, so I just started helping him take them out, which I guess wasn't a total waste because I was getting XP from it, which I still needed a lot of. The fox, though, was starting to get a little greedy and he was up to no good. So I quickly patched up the fence and went back over to the pasture. And somehow there were still chickens here. I don't know how they were surviving. Anyway, I did some breeding just to make sure we don't completely run out of chickens, not realizing there were still a bunch of them outside the coop, and the fox, he was trying to get them. Correction, not trying to. The fox was getting them, just picking them off one by one. Meanwhile, the chickens are just really confused about what's going on. But hey, check it out. I got tons of baked chicken. I had almost gotten rid of all the trees in front of the house, but there was still a log hiding somewhere up there. So I climbed up and got rid of it. After that, I went and grabbed my diamond sword from the chest, which was a risky move considering I've fallen into the void twice now. But I did it anyway because I wanted to get more XP, and it was well worth it. I mean, just look at how quick this is. I now had enough of it to get efficiency 3 on my pickaxe. Not only that, it so graciously gifted me another enchantment, Unbreaking 3. Pretty solid. I threw my good stuff back in the chest because there were a couple more things I wanted to do build-wise now that I had finally cleared out all the trees. Shows how much I trusted myself. The next day, I started removing some of the wood slabs so I could replace it with mossy stone. The plan was to make a pathway leading up to the house, and I had quite a few of this stuff, so I took it all the way back to the infinity block shelter. I accidentally took out a couple more chickens. These poor guys were probably running from a fox, and I just sent them straight down into the void. I also started a pathway leading from the villager hall when I ran into a similar situation with this cow. The guy was stubborn and didn't want to move out of the way. I knew he was bluffing though, and it was only a matter of time before he ran off like a coward. Get it? Oh man. Anyway, use this opportunity to clean things up a bit and just replace all the random blocks I had scattered around the platform. I just wanted to make things a bit more uniform. But hey, check it out. The place was looking good. Much better and very spacious. I went ahead and finished the slab staircase leading up to the end portal. Again, I don't really know why I put so much effort into this because I only ever did come down here like once, and that was to jump in the portal. When I went back up top, I happened to notice this fox eyeballing this chicken. He was practically drooling over it until I came over and scared him off. Later that night, I started working on building light poles using fencing and shroom lights. These things are pretty cool, another item I've never used before. But they did a really good job lighting up the area, so I put up a couple of those outside the house and also one over by the barn. And look at all this light. Next, I started placing down some hedges in the front yard since I had so many leaves left over from earlier. I also had a variety of flowers like these sunflowers, which I couldn't figure out how to get facing the other direction. I'm guessing it's not possible, probably because that's the side the sun rises on. I like the shroom lights so much that I put down even more of them in the enchanting area. And wow, I really like the look of this. Probably one of my better ideas. I went ahead and scattered out the rest of the flowers, and the next morning I put down some more bushes around the platform. It's crazy how much difference these things make and just the overall aesthetic of the place. A little greenery goes a long way. I added some to the barn too, making sure the animals couldn't use it as an escape route. out. Instead of adding more crops to the side of the house, I figured I'd just use up the rest of these leaves. And it turned out looking pretty good. I threw some more eggs for no good reason and put down these sunflowers, which look awesome during the day. I then put down that podzol stuff I traded for earlier and finally got my dark oak trees planted. At this point, I was just trying to use up a bunch of random items I gathered. I was starting to feel a bit more confident, so I went and grabbed my diamond pick and sword from the chest. And I noticed this pig in the farm, so I figured I'd move him over to the pasture. There was also a cow outside the pen, so I brought it over too. Check this out. Those saplings I had just planted had already grown into a dark oak tree. That was insanely fast. Like I said earlier, I wanted to try and get a few more diamonds. So I decided to mine a little bit of the after phase, which are pretty much just all the other phases combined. Almost immediately, I was met by this guy. Yeah, at the time, I didn't realize mobs would continue spawning, and I also didn't know they would be completely random from all phases. So I made myself a new shield and got back in there. I was getting a little bit of everything. More of these zombie mobs, some more donkeys, which I guess I lost my lead, so I just had to push him out. And I don't know why I fed the villagers here, but look at this guy. Anyway, I also got this skeleton skull, which I immediately mounted on the dark oak tree, because why not? When I got back to mining, I was in for a little surprise. Okay, not little, a big one that I thought I was done with. It was at this point I remembered I had a saddle, and now that I have more of these donkeys around, I figured I would try and ride one. But I didn't quite understand how these things work, and I spent at least 5 minutes trying to throw a saddle on one, getting nowhere fast. Apparently you have to tame them first, and I kinda accidentally figured that out. But I managed to get the saddle on it and rode it all over the platform until I eventually got bored and decided to just take it to its new home in the barn. I had one of those name tags too, and I couldn't figure out how those work either. I tried it on all these guys and nothing. When I got back to mining, I spawned in an evoker, which I was really hoping I was done with. I took it out pretty quick, but it was too late. The Vexes had already spawned in. Yep, I got slapped, but no worries. I got right back to it and took him out. But guess what else spawned in? A wolf. Finally, a new companion to replace the old pups. I was so excited about this, and I immediately fed it some bones to tame it. But I messed up. I messed up big time. The poor guy was here for like 2 whole minutes before I accidentally did this. How did I even manage to do this? I couldn't believe it. Day 94, I started it off chucking a bunch of eggs into the void. Why? I don't know. Next, I fed the animals and went to do some more trading to slowly get my XP back to where it was. I only really needed 2 more diamonds to make leggings, and then I could be done with the after phase. So I got right back to mining and spawned in some more foxes, the spider, which I was really struggling to kill, and then I spawned in these 2. And thank goodness I still had this cave thing set up, because we could have had another fire on our hands. But look at this. I got some ancient debris, which I immediately threw in the furnace. Oh, and I remembered I had 2 more blocks of it in the chest, so I tossed those in as well. I also had 1 netherite scrap over in the chest by my enchanting table, so I grabbed it and made another netherite bar. I didn't want to use it just yet, so I threw it in the chest for now. After that, I made myself an iron helmet and boots, which I then enchanted for a little extra bonus. I actually managed to get feather falling 2 on the boots, which was going to be handy during the dragon fight. The next day, I got another diamond while mining, which puts us at 6. I only needed 1 more for the legs. Looks like this golem thinks he's a farm animal. He was hanging out with the donkeys. Didn't take long before I got the last diamond, and with it, I made my diamond legs, which I of course upgraded to netherite. Now I just needed to enchant them. When I went to do that, I noticed I could get protection 3, but I needed to be level 28. So once again, I threw all my good stuff in the chest because I was that paranoid. And now it was time to get as much XP as I could. I grabbed all the remaining wood I had, or at least most of it, and turned everything into sticks. I went back to Fernando and the other guy, who I don't think has a name, and I was making some good XP gains. Eventually, I wasn't able to continue trading them, so I came back with another fletching table, but these villagers, they were not interested in getting jobs at all. All they wanted to do was sleep. How relatable. The next day, I eventually did convince one to trade, and I got as much XP from him as I could. Then I replaced Fernando and the other guy's table to reset their trades. I was getting pretty close, but I was starting to run out of wood. So I had to resort to plan B, which was strictly based on the animals. Farming, breeding them, and then taking them out. It was a win-win. I was getting tons of XP and food. And check out this god-awful noise these chickens were making. I'm still having nightmares about this. But I was getting so much XP that it was well worth it. Oh, and I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. I let so many chickens out of the coop when I could have just put down some carpet to jump in and out. Look at all these arrows I had. If I run run out during the dragon fight, we have a serious problem, my friends. I ran back over to enchant my netherite legs and ended up with unbreaking and protection 3. Good enough. I also went ahead and enchanted a bow while I was here. A couple of them actually, which I ended up combining all together. That night I got back to mining. I don't know why I kept going. I had pretty much everything I needed, and I really should have stopped because I got a monster party. Another thing I thought I was done with, and of course there had to be Vexes. I was doing pretty good. I was taking most of them out, and I thought I got all of them. But while I was in a chest, one of them attacked me out of nowhere. This is where things went wrong really fast. This little guy was swarming me, and when I tried to run off, it smacked me right in the back of the head and I died.
I hate these things.
I ran back to my stuff for the last time, took out the rest of the mobs, and got my very last diamond. Oh, and one more of these guys. Hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I did. After I got this horse, I decided to call it quits on the whole mining thing. On day 97, I decided to make a brewing stand because I wanted to make some potions to take with me. I placed it down inside my house, made some glass bottles, and went to start the first potions, not realizing I totally forgot to fill them up with water. Of course, how could I forget that? Anyway, threw some nether warts in there and got the awkward potions brewed up. Next, I threw in a phantom membrane to make potions of slow falling. Since I had tons of gunpowder that I didn't know what to do with, I turned them into splash potions, and I made them the 4-minute ones with some redstone. Don't ask how these guys spawned, okay? Just know I was getting some target practice in before I go fight the Ender Dragon. And I was hitting some insane shots. Day 98. Oh look, another diamond. How'd that get there? Now I had 2 of them. Okay, I promise. I was done mining for good. No more. It was time to start preparing for the fight. I had a ton of apples and even more gold, so I made golden apples. While the ore was smelting down, I decided to finally get rid of this cave thing. That's how you know I'm done. There was no chance I was going to continue mining without this thing surrounding me. But wow, look at how much better this place looks without it. So much better. So I went and did a little more cleanup because there were still a lot of random blocks thrown in here and there that I must have missed on the first pass. So I replaced all of those, and with those last 2 diamonds I gathered, I used one to repair my sword. And since I had no plans on making diamond tools, I literally couldn't, I just enchanted my iron ones. This is another thing I probably should have done way earlier. Probably would have saved a lot of iron and stone had I done that. Anyway, I made an extra set of tools, enchanted them, and combined each of them together to get the best enchantments that I could. When I went to combine my bows, I realized that I could get power 3 at level 11. There was one problem. I was back at level 1. So I went back to my roots, taking out mobs at the shack and breeding animals. Once I hit level 11, I went back to combine the bows and gave it another pretty cool name. Day 99. It was finally time to take on the Ender Dragon. So I started gearing up for the fight, grabbing all my best gear, which included iron armor. This is everything I was taking with me. I was hoping it would be enough. It's time. Let's do this. I inserted all 4 eyes of Ender and jumped right into the portal. As soon as I arrived, I built a bridge to get over to the main area, and then started digging my way up. I made sure not to look any Endermen in the eyes, which I made the mistake of last time I was here. And there it was. There's the dragon. I immediately started taking shots at each of the pillars, taking out the first one rather easily. Most of the pillars were just low enough that I could see the very tops of the crystals. And look at how amazing this place looks with these shaders. The dragon's breath looks awesome. So vibrant. I was able to take out 4 crystals from the ground before I started having to build my way up the pillars. I stopped midway, realizing I didn't have a water bucket out ready to go. Not only for fall damage, but I needed this out in case I get swarmed by Endermen. When I got to the top, I took out the crystal and decided to stay up here and try to take out the other ones nearby. The dragon was starting to focus me, so I threw down my first slow falling potion just to be on the safe side. I continued taking shots at the other crystals, and it took me several tries, but eventually I actually hit this one. I tunnel visioned a little too hard on the next one though, and the dragon snuck up on me and flung me right into the air. It's a good thing I used that potion when I did, because I probably wouldn't have survived this. I was now flying through the air, taking shots and missing all of them. At least I looked cool doing it. Made my way up to the next crystal and quickly took it out and decided to jump right off the side, which was probably a bad move because I really didn't bring that many building blocks with me. I managed to get up the next pillar and check out this trick shot I went for. I'm over here trying to 360 no-scope this crystal, and yeah, I definitely missed it. My quick scoping skills are a bit rusty. I made my way up the last pillar to take out the final crystal, and once that was out of the way, all we had to do now was finish off the dragon. I had tons of arrows left too, so I just stayed up here sending as many towards it as I could, dodging purple balls as they came flying in towards me. I was hitting like every other shot here. It looked like the dragon was headed right towards me, and I realized the potion effects had worn off. So I quickly threw down another one when the dragon suddenly changed course and made its way to the ground. This was the perfect opportunity to get a ton of hits in, and look at this move I tried. I must have looked at an enderman on the way down because as soon as I got there, they were ready for me. I threw down my water bucket to keep them off me and started taking hits where I could. They eventually ran off, and for some reason I had the idea to shoot the dragon, which of course didn't do anything. Now that the endermen were no longer interested in me, I went in for some hits on the dragon, and I'm so glad I had that potion going because it hit me right back into the air.
Oh, wow.
On the way back down, I started taking more shots with my bow, and I actually got a couple hits in. When I got back to the ground, I immediately looked down to avoid the enderman, and this guy nearly got me. I almost looked at him. I got a couple decent hits in, and then the dragon just started dodging all my arrows. It's a good thing I brought so many of them. It started to land, and somehow I was still missing a lot of my shots. But when it finally did land, I ran in to get some hits off with my sword. The dragon had about a quarter of health remaining when it finally took off again. So I got the bow back out and started shooting it with arrows as it flew towards me. Now it was time to finish the job.
This is it. We got it.
I decided to get the final hit with a bow as the dragon flew off, but this was anticlimactic because the dragon wouldn't take off again. I think it was just too weak. Since the arrows wouldn't do anything, I ultimately decided to get the last hit with my bare fists. Well, I tried to.
Oh, of course, now he flies off.
Yeah, and then the dragon just took off. Like, what was that? I must have known. Anyway, I waited for it to fly right above me, and then I took the final shot. And just like that, we finished the dragon fight.
Ow. Let's not die.
Look at all that beautiful XP raining down from the sky. There was only one thing left to do in the end, and that was get the dragon egg. Something I didn't know how to do last time I was here. Thanks to all the comments in the last 100 days video, I now know how to grab this thing. It took me a little bit of trial and error, but I did eventually get it. I still can't believe how smooth that fight went. And wow, this place looks incredible.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
When I got back to the platform, it put me right in with the villagers, and there was a new iron golem here. I went out to the main area and decided to place the dragon egg right on top of the infinity block. It was kind of like a trophy for completing one block. But remember that horse we got from the after phases? Well, it was time to tame it.
I will tame you. Nope, don't go on the fence. Don't go. No! Why did you go in there?
I had a little trouble at first, but eventually it came around and we tamed it. I went back to the stable to grab my saddle off the good old trusty steed. And let's just take a minute to appreciate how well this place turned out. It looks awesome at night too, with all the lights. I seriously can't believe I built all this in one block. You know, it's not the most impressive build, but I had a blast putting it all together. It was finally day 100. There was only one thing left to do. If you saw my last video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've been growing this animal pen for 100 days, and it was time to let these guys out. Before I went any further, I wanted to get one last feeding session in, but I kind of ran into a problem. I went in and I couldn't get myself back out. I decided to just feed the chickens from where I was. Then I tried using a water bucket to get out, and yeah, while it worked, I let out a couple animals in the process. I went looking through my poorly organized chest until I found the iron horse armor, and this time I had the bright idea of putting the carpet back down before jumping in the fence. I climbed up onto the horse, mounted my saddle and horse armor, and checked this guy out. He was looking like a champ, and I took him out for a victory lap around the platform. I finally got to ride a horse for the first time in this game, and who would have thought it'd be in one block? I went back to the animal pen, and it was time to open the floodgates. I broke one piece of the fence, and that was clearly not enough. There were only a couple pigs leaving at a time, so I went back in and opened things up even more. More and more started pouring out, but to speed things up even further, I went in a third time and punched a few of them. Oh, and we couldn't forget about all these eggs I've been collecting. So I grabbed a ton of them from the chest and started chucking them at the animals to keep stirring things up, and that seemed to really do the trick.
Oh, the fox is getting all the chickens.
Yep, I totally forgot about the fox again. But this time I didn't really care because we were pretty much done. So I let all the chickens out of the coop, and wow, there were so many of them. I went absolutely crazy with all the eggs, just tossing them up in the air, and it was spawning even more chickens all over the place. Oh, and you thought I was done? Absolutely not. I had chests and chests full of eggs. Look at this. A full inventory worth, and it was literally raining chicken eggs from the sky. I think I somehow managed to even hit my horse with one of them.
I just hit myself with one?
And when I say these chickens were everywhere, I'm not kidding. Look at all of them on my roof. It was about this time I noticed the fox was going to town on all these chickens. It was like a buffet for the guy. And look at him jumping all over the place. It didn't know what to do with all these chicken thighs. While all the other animals were running for their lives or trying to find space, this cow was just hanging out over here by himself. Smart guy. They were even trying to break into my house over here. Oh, and it turns out there was more than one fox. There were actually like 3 or 4 of them, and they were having the best time. But hey, that's it for this one. 100 days of one block. I had so much fun playing this one through, and I can honestly say I learned even more about the game. Anyway, thank you guys for checking out the video. Really appreciate the support, and let me know down in the comments what you want to see next. Thanks for watching. Take care.